You wanted to see the 4 big premium estates all in one video. And here it is. Take your time and enjoy the Audi A6 Avant, the BMW 5 Series Touring, the Mercedes E-Klasse estate, or T-Modell as it is called, and the Volvo V90. We show all 4 cars in exterior, interior and driving. Audi A6 Avant, or estate, or wagon, or combi, however you want to call it. So in the front we have this huge single frame grille. We got the S-line on the exterior, but still with chrome contrast here, and that's the way I would also pick it. Then a Sepang blue color. That's what we call Thomas blue here, because this color here is my favorite one. Really cool. The Ara blue, by the way, is also pretty cool, but for the A6 you can only get the Ara blue over the exclusive program. This one here then a stock color, so I would definitely pick this one. The new headlamps here, they come standard with LED, optional then, which we have here with a matrix LED and also for the high beam function. And they kept the 3D Audi logo, so put the sensors, for example, here, and I think that's a good decision. I want, when I buy a 100,000 euro car or something, you know, with all the extras, I want a 3D logo in the front, don't you? 4 meters 94 or 16 foot 2 is the length. It's the same for the A6 sedan and for the A6 estate. And you see this rather simple design language here with the chrome roof rails stretched towards the rear end. If you compare it to the predecessor generation, it looks way flatter, although you don't lose too much headroom on the inside, I can already tell you so far. And then some main design lines here directly at the window frames, and then on the height of the door, this is the dropping line dividing in light and shadow. Of course, also with keyless entry, putting your hand inside, opening it, and outside here to close it again. 17-inch, it starts with the rims. Those ones are the optional maximum 21-inch rims. Wow, they look so massive. They look really spectacular. But then again, will they make you lose comfort when we drive it? We will test that today in the driving part. And of course, if they are so big, it's always the danger to scratch them. S-Line badge here right there. For the exterior, you can also combine different exterior and interior packages, so we won't have an S-Line interior today, a different one, showing you very soon. And of course, what about the rear perspective? Is that really way different than from a sedan? Let's find out. In the rear, you can see that those taillights are pretty much similar for sedan and for the estate. If you have the higher trim bills, you can also see you have the cascading turning indicators I'm using with the key here at the moment. A pretty spectacular effect always. But the question is, when I was driving behind some of the cars, I think at some point it's maybe also a little bit annoying. I have mixed feelings about that. Either, is it cool or annoying? I don't know yet. What do you think? Other than that, it's just, with the rear window, that's a little bit different. And of course, then with the hatch, electric tailgates come standard. We will soon show you that. And in the lower part, yeah, they have those tips here which form an exhaust, but they are not really an exhaust. The rear one is again there, just below here, and actually with with 2 exhaust tips from a very low part. But I think they could also leave that. Under the hood here today, a new engine, because on the petrol side there's usually the 3-liter TFSI with 340 horsepower, but here now the new 2-liter TFSI equipped for this engine with 245 horsepower. Essentially you could say it's, the engine is also fitted in the Golf GTI, but here of course you have a little bit more room, as this is here the MLB platform where you put the engines in a longitudinal way. And then there's also a 3-liter TDI in 2 horsepower specs, and a 2-liter TDI will also be available. Those are your choices so far. This is the car key. You can also use the keyless entry function, as I said. And we also have the soft close right there. Magic. Of course, you have to pay it extra. Then we have the design selection line on the interior here today. And this, for example, here with matte wood. Really feels very natural, really cool. Then bright Alcantara. And what a great contrast in styling to the blue exterior. Galvanized buttons here, they have even a clicking sound. So the build quality is superb, and I think at the moment top notch in the whole industry. Well, room for bottles is just for smaller ones here. Here's another way to open the trunk, by the way. This S-Line entry badge is still from the exterior package, by the way. But then the rest of the interior is design selection, and you can see here. At the moment the screens are off. We'll soon turn them on for you, but so you can see all in black at the moment. Pretty large steering wheel with those big holes right there. And also more matte wood on this here. So very exclusive for sure. You have different trims, also aluminum if you want a little bit sportier, for example. And then those seats, you have different forms. You have a base seat, a sport seat, a Sport Plus seat with integrated head restraint, and this one is the so-called multi-contour seat, so the top luxury seat, so to say. Unfortunately, this one is only equipped with animal skin, so I really like the styling. The bright styling looks so great. Of course, you can always argue about how is it, possible to clean it? Does it get stains from jeans and so on? But the bright style, especially as contrast to the blue, looks so amazing. Then again, if you want fabric seat, then you have to go with the base seats, at least in Europe. Some markets might be offering leatherette seats as well, but not in the higher trims. And the sport seats would also be available with Alcantara on the inside. So let's get inside. Easy entry, but a standard, let's say, sedan seating position, although we have the Avant here, but those cars are really not different in the height. You can vary the height a little bit if you pick either, go from a base to the sport suspension, which is 20 millimeters lower than the adaptive suspension we have here today, or with the air suspension. There you can also, change the height, but the base height then is usually the same. But who buys this car with the 20 millimeters lower sport suspension? I guess it won't have a big take rate. Well, for me, 1m86 or 6'1". Plenty of headroom left today with no panoramic roof, but of course there is also one available optionally. Bright ceiling here. Then the seating position is really super comfortable, one of the most comfortable cars on the market, also on the long-term one. Tested that one also in a sedan quite often. The steering wheel does have an electric control right here. You've seen also in the other review, you have to order it extra. That's quite common with the premium manufacturers, that they almost make everything extra. So the standard equipment is relatively low, and then of course the price also jumps up. And the seat you control here electronically as well. In the lower area, again, also electric seats are an extra as well. But you can also have 2 memory slots, so you can use it with 2 drivers without resetting everything all over again. So this is the interior overview, pretty spectacular as well. Especially this wooden area. You could say it's a little bit too much maybe, but I really like it. The thing I like a little bit less are those glossy black elements. I would like, to have them maybe in wood or aluminum style as well, so they collect fingerprints. But don't put your hands on there, please don't. This Quattro is also illuminated at night. There's also a special night riding episode with the A6 sedan we've done, if you're interested in night riding. Or Night Rider. Don't you like Night Rider? So, it starts here with this 8-inch screen on the top part. This one is the optional 10.1-inch screen, the MMI Navigation Plus. In the lower part, you always have this one, the 8.6-inch because the climate function is controlled right there. Soon we'll also take this one here again in detail. And if you have the MMI Navigation Plus, then you switch from analog instruments over to fully digital instruments, which we have here. Soon also more details to that. The volume control is also here on the steering wheel. On the left side you can browse through the menu of the digital instruments or change the view. Soon more details again to that. And also on the steering wheel there's the voice control. I'm cold.
What temperature should I set for you?
22 degrees.
I've already set the system to 22 degrees.
Ah, you see, she even realized that it was already at 22 degrees. So this is really good. You can not only, stumble around on the lower part because it can be distracting while driving. Use the voice function also for the navigation, for example. That will be good. Then the lower middle console, again, also I like this matte wood, so you can also hear how it feels. Maybe we should start a Autogefühl car SMR episode here. What do you think? Then the cup holders, adaptive, also with a 12-volt power supply, and then this automatic gear lever with the electric handbrake. And here the latest build of the virtual cockpit, which has the advantage that you can switch the views. For example, have a bigger map or so on. Can also zoom in and out with your left thumb then. Pretty amazing. And of course, here some, can put the radio features or the consumption. It went up now a little bit as we were driving around on the parking lot. But you can also get it a little bit lower. Talking about it soon when we drive the car, of course. So here, one of the main features for me is, I really want to show you that, if you go to settings, and a lot to choose from here always. So you have to know it's display, and then it's the MMI, and then the touchscreen feedback. So if I activate that, you really have to, press the buttons, because when I'm just tapping here, like on the smartphone, nothing happens. You really have to press, and then you also get a haptical feedback and also sound feedback. But the problem is, everything is so slow. But then if you have it like a smartphone, if you deactivate it, so I now really found how to deactivate it, then actually you can control everything quite fastly. And I really like that because, we're used to that from the smartphones. Very fast processor. Look at the screen. Wow, it looks really amazing as for the resolution, and really cool to browse around. Good system as for that one, and so much easier to use if you can just tap it. You can, for example, also have the auto drive select here, or also just use the lower buttons, but they're not that well to control while driving, I have to say. Talking more about the driving modes when we drive the car. Bluetooth function either, or what's also available if you plug in your phone, you also have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, the direct connection. That's also possible. And in the lower part, you set the temperature like this, or you hold your finger. You can do it like here and then just swipe. That's also possible. Again, it's easier when you have the haptic feedback deactivate, or use the voice control as just shown you. Then also where the vents are being coming from. Again, it can be quite distracting while driving. Also with the heated seats here, or the cooled seats. We even have a massage function for the seats, by the way. And if I press that button on the left side of my seat, you see that it pairs here, and with wave pulled stretch and rest shoulder and activation and everything, revitalization, intensity, always set it to the max. And it's really cool. It goes from the lower part all the way up to the shoulders. One of the best seat massages there is. Again, an option. There's also a separate button then for the rear view camera. There's also the 3D view available, not equipped with this test vehicle here today, but the normal rear view camera will usually also do just fine. And the real volume knob is still left, primarily, I think, for the co-driver. This middle armrest, you can make it a little bit longer or shorter, and then you can also fold it up. Right there, and very stable. 2 USB ports, and then the center part. You see also NFC and the QI logo. This is where you put your smartphone for the inductive charging. And what about the rear? Well, of course you have enough legroom in the rear even for tall people, but considering the length of those vehicles, and that's a problem in the segment altogether, I have this legroom in the Honda Jazz. So the package, so what they use of the space they have on the exterior, put on the interior, is still kind of weird, but that's, also counting for all the competitors. Still, you can sit very comfortably here, also headroom-wise, no problem. And the Avant, or the Estate, has the advantage that it goes further with a roofline. So, I didn't really have problems in the sedan, but of course, it's a little bit more room if you lean backwards, for example, on those seats. They are in a little lying position anyway, so you have even more room to move around. That's pretty interesting. And you can also have the ISOFIX, that's standard then, on the outside seats, and you can also flip the seats already from here if you want so, or use this middle armrest right there, also with cup holders and some storage area, and then also able to this way, to go right there. They can just use this ski hatch and load, for example, just the middle part through, maybe for some wood bars or then for some skiers. And finally, this is the optional 4-zone AC. Pretty cool. Also has a clicking feedback. And in the lower part, 2 USB ports. But the downside is, you see, it's a massive middle tunnel, so sitting here in the middle seat is almost impossible. So, what about the hatch? This is the important stuff here. You can open it here, you can open it with the key, or there's also this entry function available with the foot kick. Pretty cool when you have stuff in your hands. And there we are. Good opening, very high. I'm 1.86 or 6'1" if you remember. And then there's the closing button, we'll soon show you that. Here, the top cover raises automatically, that's really handy. The standard setup is 565 liters, and just to put a backpack in here, then you can see, the size. The width here is just a little bit over 1 meters, and that's really important. You can get stuff in and out very easily. Clear advantage over the sedan, and also over 30 liters more in capacity. And then we can also flip the seats right here and left side. And there's a 40-20-40 split, so you can also separately just move the middle one. This is then the total setup of 1,680 liters, and you can push them a little bit further down if you put up the head restraints, but here very well usable. And by the way, this is the data sheet of this vehicle. Just pause the video if you want to take a look at it a little bit longer, with all of the details this car has, so which, this very test vehicle is equipped with. Again, if you want to take a detailed look at the equipment or the technology packages or suspension, which kind of, I'm telling you basically the most stuff, but you can also again pause the video to check out more details. And then resume, of course, later. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge here today at Frankfurt Airport, and I'm starting directly here because it's super loud here in this tunnel area, and it's super silent in this vehicle. So you don't realize anything which is going on outside because it's so super silent in here. And this is also one of the main features of this vehicle that belongs to this luxury well-being concept, that you could really relax, take a deep breath. Everything is perfectly silent in here. That's really cool. What's not really cool is that I have the side camera mounted, and now I have to enter this card here. So I have to open the door, get unlocked. Now, that happens when you do car reviews, right? So now, I had to hold the card against it, not to put it in. So, and from absolute silence, and just rolling in a cozy way, we directly get onto the motorway, which is the second important discipline of this car. We will be used on the motorway, also at long-term runs quite a lot. And interestingly, we have here the 2-liter TFSI today, which is brand new basically. Wasn't available so far. In this case here, 245 horsepower. And the all-wheel drive is also the Quattro Ultra. That's basically for all of the Audi A6 except the 3-liter TDI, the strong horsepower version. It's 286 horsepower. We tested that one lately as well, which is still a real Quattro all-wheel drive with 40/60 basically, as a base setup. And this one here, those Quattro Ultra system, they are all front-wheel drive plus rear-wheel drive on demand. Well, as a driver, do you really feel that? That really depends on how you drive. In most cases, people will not really notice it. But of course, there's always a big fan group who says, I really want still the very classic all-wheel drive. The newer systems maybe have the advantage that they sometimes consume a little bit less fuel, since when you go slowly, just the front wheels are being used for the drive, and then when you apply some more power, also more is applied to the rear wheels. So I'm driving now 100 kilometers an hour already, and it's again so super silent, and the car is extremely stable on the road. And we already experienced that one with the sedan as well. It's such a great motorway vehicle. It's one of the best there is, just cruising a long way, have this very comfortable seating position, although we're not like in this upright SUV seating position, but for a normal car seating position, this is one of the best you have here with those seats here as well. So they really figured out how to build those very comfortable seats, no matter which material is used now. I'll let that aside now. Then very easy to accelerate also. I'm just a little bit on the throttle, but although we just have the 2-liter 4-cylinder here, I have a good and sovereign acceleration. So that was also the question initially, is it not sovereign enough if you have the smaller engine? I can say it's absolutely enough, absolutely fine. And we'll of course show you soon a little bit more acceleration, that you can also experience that. But to me it's also important that the engine is not only performing when really hammered, but that it's also giving you, quite cool with the planes, that's also giving you a sovereign, smooth and soft performance, that you don't have, to push all the RPMs until something is happening. So at the moment, there's unlimited speed, so we can go to the sport mode, that we don't have to shift that much, goes more. Let's go just from 100, let's see. That's 150 kilometers an hour. So that was 100 to 150 kilometers an hour. This is where the difference between the 3-liter engines and the 2-liter engines becomes apparent. If you start from standstill, from zero, the smaller ones will also do just fine. But here in the higher speed regions, which is again mainly a German thing, there you do feel a significant difference in acceleration, because then the bigger displacement engines have just more punch, more power. Still, this is quite decent still, but again, for big accelerations on the motorway, then it's a difference, or maybe when it's like full packed or something. So let's go back in lane. Considering this is not a small car, we still have a decent overview also to the rear, even a little bit better here now in the Avant or in the Estate. And would I, with closed eyes, realize if I'm driving the sedan or the Estate? Not really, no one could tell. It's basically the same vehicle, just with different rear ending. So I would always go with the Estate because it's just more practical, in every sense. And again, also the rear visibility is actually a little bit better. That's another advantage. Even if the tarmac gets a little bit rougher, it still remains very silent. It's just from the rain here. But you know, when we're filming outside, it's not that pleasant to get the rain, of course. But you know, when driving, it's sometimes also quite good to test the car in the rain. Also, when we have those very freshly built front windshields, so cool how clean, you know, everything gets done with the wipers. It's pretty amazing. And also when the raindrops are on this very fresh paint and they still peel off like with the Lotus effect, that's also pretty amazing. We have several assistance systems, of course, inbuilt in this vehicle. Overall about 38 different ones you can get. The base one, the emergency brake assist, that one is already built in every standard A6. Then option you can get, for example, the adaptive cruise control. I set it here on the left side of the steering wheel with the separate column. Just press it and then distance to the car in front of me is being kept. You probably also have seen the blind spot monitor, which appears then here in the side mirrors. This is actually to me one of the most important features to get. Especially since the B-pillars on those vehicles nowadays are pretty much blocking the views, and so it's always good to have those. Here, by the way, quite wet now after some rain, but still giving you so much serenity and calmness in this vehicle. At the same time, it is actually sporty to drive, although it's not really a lightweight car, but you can drive it in a sporty way because it just handles so well on the road. Here when I'm a little bit faster now, even though it's a little bit slick now on the road, really cool. So I have to go straight, so I have to wait for that truck. So if you compare it, for example, with the smaller model, with the A4, of course the A4 feels somewhat more agile. This one here then has advantages, you know, when just running straight, having this longer wheelbase. This also adds to this very calm driving feeling. And to me at the moment, this vehicle has one of the best and most sovereign driving feelings of all vehicles on the road. So I think they've done an excellent job here, also with the combination, you know, of the suspension. This one here is the adaptive suspension we're driving. As you might remember, we have a base. Whoa, that's a lot of rain now. But why not test it in the rain? So we have a base suspension, then we have the sport suspension, which sits a little bit lower. Then we have the adaptive one. That is the one we're driving today, and it's really an excellent combination. We have sporty driving, but at the same time also comfort. And then there's the air suspension, which we have tested in an earlier review, which gives you more this carpet driving-like feeling, but also combines sportiness and comfort in a quite good way. The question is, do you still need the air suspension when you have this one here? And I have to say, this suspension here is absolutely amazing. I would really say that you can save the money for the air suspension, not because it's not good. The air suspension is also superb. But this one here is already doing such a good job that if you ask me then, or again, blindfolded, and well, someone would tell me, hey Thomas, this car is equipped with the air suspension, have fun, drive it. And I would say, yeah, maybe that's the case. So, you know, there are some air suspensions on the market where you feel like they are that stiff that you say, is that really an air suspension? But here, that's the same weather experience with the new BMW 5 Series, where they have the new adaptive suspension. That one is also so well done that it's also feeling like an air suspension. So I can really recommend already this normal adaptive suspension. So always, of course, an extra price, but the air suspension will be even more expensive. The steering gives me, by the way, a good feeling. It could be a little bit smaller, so I think it's maybe a little bit too big. So that would convey a little sportier feeling if it would be a little bit smaller. But then again, the directness of the steering is cool. It's very progressive. See, there's no dead zone of the steering wheel. I have direct command. At the same time, it's easy to steer, but not that easy that it would feel, you know, unnatural or something. Those are, you know, those columns here. There's speed cameras here, especially, you know, in the middle and southern parts of Germany. Very evil stuff. Always pay attention to those. Yeah, I know there are some viewers who really hate those. I can understand. Of course, drive safe and drive as slow as possible in the city. But then again, sometimes there are situations where you really pay attention to everything and you doing everything great, but then you just maybe are unlucky or let the car just roll out a little bit, and sometimes not the right people are getting caught. That's life. So here in the city, it also performs very well. Again, the main characteristic of this car to me is the great sound insulation and the calmness of the ride, the serenity. But at the same time, for such a rather big vehicle, you can drive it sporty. Just, for example, go in a sport shifting mode, but it's also, then, the gears are turned up higher and get a nice punch already. But what's also possible is that you use the drive select and put it, for example, in the dynamic mode. And then not only the shifting goes to the S, to the sport mode, now also the suspension is a little bit stiffer, giving me a little bit more feedback. We get some transverse bumps on the road now. I feel a little bit better. So if you want a little bit more sporty driving fun, that's always possible then here with the adaptive suspension. If you go for these driving modes with a normal suspension, they will change a little bit with the steering or with the throttle input, but nothing with the suspension. But here with the adaptive suspension and with the air suspension, it also changes how the dampers are working. And that's actually quite cool to have the choice. So if you have at some point the possibility to drive some nice country routes or something and want some more feedback from suspension, maybe stuff like this here, then it's also quite good to have a little bit stiffer suspension that keeps you in balance. Again, that's also a lot of fun to drive it then. And if you're just running straight, for example, on the motorway, well, maybe at motorway at higher speeds, and it could also feel safer to have the dynamic mode. Come on, guys, really? Again? Such a tall tower? Yeah. They always want our money, right? So, and then you can also, go, for example, to the efficiency mode. And if you're, for example, just rolling, that's called sailing. This new mild hybrid technology is built in all the engines. It's actually enabling you to save fuel, and the car is just rolling. It always depends on, at the moment the RPMs are not dropping, but you have then sometimes situations, I think I have to go a little bit faster. Let's see. So I'm going a little bit faster now dropping. At the moment it doesn't want to do that, but so you would see the RPM drop then. And then it means basically that the sailing mode is active, the car is consuming no fuel, and it's just rolling. And they say on paper it should deliver you 0.7 liters less on 1 kilometers, but that's just on paper, of course. But the efficiency mode also decreases the throttle input, helps you to save some fuel. This vehicle is, by the way, also equipped with the rear axle steering, or they also call it all-wheel steering. So that means up to a speed that's the borderline 60 kilometers an hour. Below that, the rear axle goes 5% across the opposite direction of the front wheels, and above, when you're driving faster, above 60 kilometers an hour, the maximum of 2 degrees parallel to the front wheels. And so when I'm driving less than 60 now, what I feel is that the car is actually handling a little bit more like a car with a shorter wheelbase. So they fake a shorter wheelbase by that, some kind of. It really feels, so there's no one there now, so I can do that here on this countryside road. So here when I'm driving slow, it really feels like a smaller car, although we're already in a longer wheelbase. And in numbers, the turning circle gets reduced by 1.1 meters to 11.1 meters. And that's actually, then the normal turning circle of a mid-size vehicle. That's pretty cool. So it is, again, an expensive option, but an option that is worthwhile, that eases your life. And although we have the 21-inch wheels mounted, it's still a very comfortable ride, and that also speaks for the suspension, because usually when we have so big rims mounted, the comfort usually drops. So that's again pretty amazing that we still have this comfort. But again, for parking and stuff, it's easier to go for smaller rims. They will a little bit more increase the comfort and also reduce stress, because with those 21-inch rims, I would always be afraid, it's not a chance maybe to damage them. So that can happen quite easily. So now, after this acceleration, I zeroed the consumption figure. And let's see what we have there. So it's, mainly with cruising and stuff, 7.5 liters on 100 kilometers. And that's quite decent. Of course, if I would have some more acceleration or city driving in there, this would probably go up a little bit. But you can then say that 8 liters on 100 kilometers is actually feasible. And that's just a little bit more than you would have, for example, with an Audi A4 petrol engine. And remember, the 3-liter TDI was about 7 liters altogether. You can also drive it a little bit with less consumption, but I think overall it can always be lower, of course, but I think we can be quite satisfied with that too. That was quite an interesting ride, right? Because we had so many different elements all together mixed in, those about 20 minutes. I hope you really enjoyed that. And the last thing what I want to show you again is when we have this rear axle steering, how easy I can also get around this parking lot. I mean, if I just, turn here now, for example. So now I'm maximum turn in, you can see. That's actually pretty cool. I'm not sure if you can really see that also on camera. And we also have our interesting camera system. I put in reverse gear now, of course, with some raindrops right there. There's the normal rear view camera. You can activate it and deactivate it. And in some other vehicles, which is it's not actually, it's not mounted in here, but we've shown that with the other vehicles. So check out the other review. There's not only a high resolution rear view camera, but also this 3D around view. You don't have to have it, but it looks truly fancy. So, hope you enjoyed this driving part. Driving-wise, it doesn't really matter if you have the estate or the sedan version. This one here, of course, is more practical. Sadly not available in the US. And, probably most of the manufacturers say estates won't sell in the US. But we also receive feedback that you think it's maybe different nowadays. I don't know. What do you think? Leave me your comments. Exterior, a very sharp design. Of course, here in the Thomas blue, Sepang blue color today. Really beautiful. Also with those 21-inch alloys. Of course, quite expensive. The interior, so well done. As for the build quality, that's really amazing. As for the control concept, you can argue about that. There are surely some weaknesses, but also some advantages that come with that. Of course, a big issue that they don't offer animal skin alternatives in the higher trims. Just in the low trim sometimes, or in the US, you can quite often also get the leather rest, but not in all trim levels. So that's something they have to work on sustainability-wise. Other than that, really great what this interior is offering, especially then if you compare it with the trunk and the sedan. I would always go for this one, although I like sedans more visually. This one is just, when you put a bicycle in the rear or something. With a sedan, you have sometimes, when you put stuff in, just a little few centimeters that are missing. That's actually way more flexibility, especially when you flip the seats, for example. Very long loading area and also in height. So overall, for sure, one of the best cars in this segment, especially due to this very calm riding and also the 2-liter TFSI, which we drove the first time for this vehicle day. It's actually a Golf GTI engine, So it performed quite well, so I can also recommend this engine in the whole lineup. The BMW 5 Series Touring, the most famous one in good old Germany. This one here is really bought primarily here in Deutschland as the 5er Touring. So we're going to take a detailed look on exterior, interior and of course the versatility, especially of those rear compartments, and then the driving performance. The color here is bluestone metallic, so a very bright blue which goes in a gray direction. And I was recently asked the Mediterranean blue we've shown you in the M550i and also on the motor show episode of this touring here. Yet it was the same color. It's both Mediterranean blue, but the Mediterranean blue, it really shines darker outside, and when you have inside light, it's brighter. Very interesting. But I think a very stylish color here too, or what do you think? What is great that we have the headlights, always standard equipment with LED. Optional, what we have here, are those high beam LED that you have, and then with 500 meters of range. And you see they lead over with the aluminum accentuation here to the now bigger double kidney with adaptive air intakes. At the moment they are closed, so a very prominent, very strong front. It is an evolution, but it is the widest look the 5 Series has yet. 4,94 m or 16'2" is the length, same for the sedan and the estate version. Here we also have an M Sports package just for the visual part with the M logo here. Then 17 up to 19-inch rims. So we see the 19-inch rims here, and they look very beautiful also in the M style. Then also everything in the same vehicle color. Chrome contrast all around here, so an elegant, rather conservative layout in the side profile, especially also with this classic touring style. See, everything is rather straight, but then this also good advantage that you don't lose too much room on the inside. What do you think about? Do you rather prefer the sedan, or do you like the touring more for the 5 Series? Tell me in the comments. Also, the rear is rather conservative, but you know, they do have the strategy to go for an evolution in design, and this segment is also, you know, not about doing design revolutions in general. The taillights, they're pretty similar to the ones we see at the sedan, just, you know, this area is of course different. And here you will see we'll still have the split hatch. We will soon show you that in the interior part, that the glass part can also just be opened. And although we have a diesel, we have those exhaust pipes which are quite massive. The outer part widens to the end to have an aligned design here. In this one, you can already see it right now, is the 530D. But we also have an exclusive new information. What about, because I was asked, what about an M550i for the touring? Let's take a look and answer that question. And if engine doesn't really matter to you, you don't need 6, you need 8 cylinders, whatever, you just say, I also want to go with the basic, and maybe even for that one, you can get a sporty styling package. So you get those M performance parts, and this, for example, is just a 520D that has those black elements here, very sporty, carbon fiber lower bumper. This will get very expensive if you damage it, by the way. But what an aggressive look, although we don't have the biggest engine under the hood, already in the front here. That also accounts for the side. We can see 20-inch rims here in black style. I like that the Pirelli tires overlap them a little bit to protect them. Then we have black contrast here, not only the lower part, but also here in this design line. This is wrap. And we got carbon fiber covers for the outer mirrors. Again, a really dark atmosphere for sure. Almost a little bit evil, isn't it? So probably the most evil 5 Series touring you can get from the standard works equipment. And then to the rear, this is even more massive with the carbon fiber diffuser, really massive. And in this case, those are also some fake exhaust pipes, but they really dissolve from the actual exhaust pipe. So I think it's really well done. If you want that aggressive look, I mean, why not going for a small engine and just getting this look? Because there was also one question recently, do those very big engines make sense? Well, in most countries not. There are hardly any countries where you can really drive freely and so over high speed on the motorways. So usually Also, you're fine also with a 520D, for example. And now to the engine information. Here we go. So this one here is the big diesel 530D, 265 horsepower, 3 liter of displacement. Then there's a 520D, 2 liter, 190 horsepower. And then we have 2 liter petrol, 252 horsepower, the 530i, or 3 liter 540i with 340 horsepower. That's the engine lineup so far. And now new was the M550i, the new 8-cylinder then with 462 horsepower. And then I got the question if that will also be available for the Touring. No, it won't be. So we can tell you today they have decided to launch here for the diesel the in the Touring combination, the M550D. So the Touring will get the most powerful, or this M Performance version as the diesel, and it will still be the basic diesel engine we see here right now, but not just with twin power turbo, but with 4 turbos then, and it will reach a power output of 400 horsepower. The big key here for the 5 Series, and you can also remotely park that car. We will show you that at the very end of this episode a little bit, or also check the 550i review for that. Let's open the door. Here we go, and visually very nicely done with this aluminum and bright contrast, and very well processed, also soft up at the top. The optional sound systems here, Bowers and Wilkins is also equipped with that one. Small bottles fit right there. Then also M package inside, but what I'm missing is the usual seat for the M package would then be a rhombical Alcantara mix, so fabric Alcantara mix. I would like to see that seat at some point. It's only available in black, and in Germany you get fabric seats also as standard equipment. And in the US, you can get Sensatec in this color, in beige, bright, and also Sensatec Leatherette in black. And then optional animal skins. But they do offer enough alternative, that's good. Then if we take a look here, the M steering wheel, this one is also optional, comes with a package almost with a heated function. There's a small symbol then you can press to get warm fingers then too. And the first glimpse also at the instruments, you see they are digital. You don't see too much when the engine is not running. Let's get inside. Fairly easy entry, and the one is 86 or 6'1", and this one is here now equipped with a panoramic roof that leaves less headroom than we have in the sedan. For example, we've shown you the 550i without the panoramic roof. Then you can compare it if you're interested in that. So if you're like 2 meters or 6'3", then probably leave out the panoramic roof. But here in the Touring also goes further away. I can soon show you that, and leaves a lot of light in the interior. Basically a very comfy seating position. You can also adjust the seats in so many different ways. Also the seating area in the lower part, so everyone will find a comfortable seating position here in general. Steering wheel can also be adjusted electronically, so fairly easy that's set up. And you also have a seat memory function if you want to go for that. Of course, most of the stuff is always optional. I mean, at least we had the LED lights from standard equipment, and but especially in the interior, so many stuff that is optional, and then you get easier to very high prices. cockpit overview, I think you see how much light is coming through the panoramic roof, and plus the other bright elements in the interior also bring some more light to the rest. So this is a very bright interior in general, and I really like that. And as I said, you can also get it with sensor tech, for example, for our guys in the US. That, of course, counts for the sedan, because the Touring, the Estate, is not available in the US. They focus on the European market with it. But later on, also the GT, for example, renewed again. Then what you can see here, all soft in the dashboard, high-class building processing, and also in the lower part, it is not hard plastic. And they really step up the game. So the 5 Series is the best processed BMW from the interior so far. We really have to say that. Climate unit is in the lower part, and you can see visually one unit with a new screen. It starts with 8.8, this a little smaller. This one then the optional screen, because the manufacturers always equip everything with the car, even if we want to show you some basic cars, sometimes it's quite often not possible. This one here 10.25 in inch, so also in this horizontal layout. And you can also see those sensors here, because those sensors here already take some functions with the infotainment screen. For example, here, like this one here, you can turn up the volume or go down with the volume again with this gesture control. Or for example, like this, we change the radio station. So you can switch radio stations by this gesture. And at the first time you think, oh, why they just use the knob here and then buttons or something like that. But sometimes I've tested it while driving, you feel like, hey, why not using the gesture right now? It's sometimes also fun, especially when you're with the co-driver, or when someone has not been seeing this function yet. Then it's really funny to present it for the very first time. What's happening here? Instruments, you see they come alive when you start the engine. Nice visualization. This is standard mode. And if you go to the sport mode, you see they change, and you have a bigger digital speed and this red racing background. And now to the head-up display. You can see it there. It's not flickering, by the way, in real life. It's just on camera. And speed info, for example, but also GPS info will be displayed on there. And it is 70% larger. It's a very big one. It's the best on the market, I think. And infotainment system in detail, you see at the right and left side, there's the sensors. And then you can also use it as a touchscreen now. This is quite new still at BMW. And good responsive times, I really like that. And also the co-driver can do a lot. But you can also control it in a classic way, like zoom in and out and go to the menu. This is, again, told you sometimes, I think it's a little bit too confusing where we go here. You can connect phone with Bluetooth, but also with Apple CarPlay, with the cable, or also with wireless CarPlay, and also the competitors, for Android and stuff. And here's the radio menu, so you can browse everything quite quickly if you know where to go to, or then also use the new gesture control. And also the camera system is really interesting. So I guess a button for the camera, and here you can check it all in the rear, for example, but there are also other views available. So let me just put it in the reverse gear. There it is. That looks different. Here, when I fold out the mirrors, then back again, then we also get the real view. And what is also interesting is here the rear view camera, the normal one. If you turn the steering wheel, it looks into this direction, so it's a little bit adaptive, and that is very helpful when you're parking reverse outside from something where you cannot see right and left from your driver's perspective, but the rear is already outside and seeing some vehicle or so. Then it really makes sense. So a good technological development here for sure. Here the climate unit is very interesting with this display. You can control it right here, but the classic temperature right there. Then a nice cover here. The structure, I really like it, already in the 550i. In the front, you can put the key for inductive charging if you have that option, or also if you have, for example, an iPhone with this loading wireless charging cover. It's very thick and pretty big actually, but one of, for example, the Android handies, the Android mobile phones, they also have inductive charging included. And then you have a blue light flashing, and then it's also charging. Adaptive beverage holders in the front. Then there's an automatic gear lever with a converter gearbox. A lot of torque to carry, but very flawless in the function. You control the driving mode, Sport, Comfort, and Eco Pro and stuff here. You see that also, as we've shown you in the instruments, the views change. You then have the camera button and this one here where I control the infotainment system if you do not do it via touch. And the armrest here with the USB port. We have discussed that now in the comments already. I would like to see a second USB port because maybe not everyone is going for the inductive charging function. And now let's go to the rear. Very good entry. The doors open almost 90 degrees. That's remarkable. Then this huge panoramic roof, also good for the rear passengers that you can see outside. It's really nice. Headroom wise, still some left. Again, I'm 1m86 or 6'1". You would have more when you leave out the panoramic roof, because you can see also adults can very well sit here when you still have the panoramic roof mounted. Some knee room also left, but it's a very long car, so the package overall for the rear passenger is not the best, because we've seen similar results for way smaller cars too. Then you can also have some beverage holders here. There we go, also a little bit adaptive, or you can also use the ski hatch and fold down this one already from here. The rest will be done from the trunk. Isofix on both outside seats, so you can have 2 child seats, for example. And then you also have the climate control if you want, also for the rear passengers. And now the highlight of this very vehicle, opening the electric hatch, the standard equipment. And wow, that's a good offering of room. Some hangers right there. And for example here you can store the covers, you know, the cover for the trunk, and that's really good solution because they're really fixed right here. Or this one would be the second one, you know, to pull up a net at the front seats, and I've left them out here that we have the full glory of the trunk here at the moment, and then I can also better show you how to flip the seats, and that's pretty easy. It's electrically done here, and then they just flip right there. And here, when I put this one there, also the other one. So good solution, and wow, how much stuff we can load through here. So a very well done system. Really like that. And here, wow, that's so funny that they put an hydraulic damper here for this middle part. I mean, okay, we sometimes say we need hydraulic dampers for the hood in the front, but maybe this is also a little bit over the top, isn't it? But of course, again, you can say, yeah, you pay a lot of money, then you can maybe also enjoy stuff like this. Then also let's close the hatch, see the safety feature. That's quite okay, so we can live by that, then no one gets squished. And of course, let's say you have loaded everything to the very top, maybe you're on holiday, then you can also use the split hatch here and then put something on top. And then again, if you have mounted the covers here, for example, the cover that goes like this and then up again, you can also protect it to that everything falls to the cabin. So it's a nice feature, and you can also open the hatch now electrically. It won't do any damage. That's actually not a problem. So you're very versatile in this case. The other one, by the way, is just manually drawn back like this. So you use some power, and then optional, you can also get this foot opening mechanism. And they say the sensor is not right in the middle. You have to keep the key in the pocket, and the sensor would be just a little bit to the right. And see, yeah, the first try now, live on tape. You know, we always try to give you an authentic look, and we will not leave out any product details. So, and you can also close it again. Hey, that's a flawless result for this foot opening mechanism. I mean, you just have to know where exactly is it. Some place in the very middle part, some place a little bit to the right, and it's always important that you always take a step back after have you even activated. But so far, here, 2 out of 2. And someone asked for it, and yes, I'm doing it, just to reinstall those covers here again. And well, this one here is not too easy to get out again, but in general I think they have found a good solution to store it, if I mentioned it earlier, but also to put it in again. This one here is actually quite heavy, but you can see here there's a gap that puts on there, You have to put it very tight. So this one is fixed then. And then you can open two parts right there and hang it right in there. So, a little bit tricky. There it is. So, and then this is all secure, that nothing can fly over, even if you put something on the very top. And then, but I mean, you don't have to put this. And then this one is also very easy to install again. Just slide it forward like this. So, and then you have it in this rail. And wow, magic. And the good thing is also that it automatically closes when you close the hatch. So here we go, there it comes. And it's closed, and when you open it again, it first opens before the hatch. Then you have this setup. And it's really good, they can load in things very easily, you know, and automatically open. So I think great solutions. So let's go with our driving part. Interesting is here that we also have this integral steering, the rear axle steering integrated with this vehicle. And this is a really interesting function because the turning circle, for example, is really, really small. Look at that. I mean, for such a long vehicle. And also when you are turning that vehicle in slalom, especially at low speeds, because at low speeds, the rear axle goes in the opposite direction. And wow, this is really a very interesting feeling. Also here, when you're steering close surroundings, it's totally different than when you do not have this option. And correct myself, for the M550i, yes, the standard M550i is not to be meant with that way, but you can still get it optionally for 3,500 euros in an M Professional package, so it's possible. And yes, it feels a little less natural than if you just have, you know, normal steering in the front, because it feels a little bit artificial, but it is a great feature for handling in the city, and it's also a lot of fun. It's really creating a totally different driving feeling. And when you drive faster, you experience it on the motorway, then the rear axle wheels, they steer in the same direction. You get some more stability then. So that is how those systems are always working. But again, it's giving you great agility then, especially at the lower speeds. And this car is, of course, about the driving dynamics. It's really always astonishing how agile the car is, although it's really big. You just, especially with this integral steering, you just want to do slalom all the time. It's really so much fun. Oh, I think cameraman Michel is getting a little bit sick by the slalom. Yeah. Let's maybe leave that for a second, but I think you guys had fun, you know. You don't feel the G-force on camera, so probably better for you guys. The 530D, the big diesel, is really powerful. Also has an interesting sound. Not, of course, that refined as the big petrol engines, but for diesel, quite good. Also, some sound is artificially created. Let's go to the sport mode when we go on the motorway now. Then I'll show you earlier that some characteristics changed visually, and also throttle input, for example, and stiffness 62. 120. 140. So that was 62, 140 kilometers. So really good performance. Also how harmonic, how smooth this performance comes. So you won't lack any power with this diesel, not at all. That's for sure. But of course, you know, diesels are getting, you know, are in a little crisis. Let's talk that way in image-wise. There's no great alternative yet to someone who's really dying 40, 50,000 kilometers a year. You know, doing salesman, business service, for example. But for every other, you know, not so much range per year. So it's more and more important to get small petrol engines, maybe also CNG, electric and stuff. That's all evolving. But still a lot of people are going for this diesel here when they use it for a long range car, and therefore we're also testing it today here for you. And from the diesels we know in general, this one here, the big BMW diesel, really does a great job. Such a calm engine, also gives you a lot of sovereignty. You don't have to turn it up really. You know, also in the low RPM regions, always gives you abundance of power already. And in general, this car here, you know, when someone wants to join the lane, why not leave him in? Some people are always, you know, fighting on the road, and I really hate that. Just, you know, relax. Everyone gets to the goal, to the final destination, and then you'll be fine. Just relax and be friendly to others. Then others will also be friendly to you, hopefully. So, and this relaxed, sovereign driving feeling is something that this vehicle is really all about. So the sound insulation is superb. When you're driving 100 kilometers an hour, you hardly hear or feel anything. It's like driving 50 kilometers, you know, with a normal vehicle. Such a calm ride. The suspension is really great. You know, already the standard suspension is really great with that one here today, and that is special with the Touring. We have the air suspension in the rear. Well, we have some load in the rear, but not really heavy stuff. And the question is really, does it feel so much different? And I think you do feel a little difference, especially because you just have it at the rear axle. And I always wonder why they do that. Maybe we know it from Volvo that they do the same way, just air suspension in the rear to get the same level always, no matter which, you know, which load you are carrying. But for example, the Mercedes Airmatic systems, or now air body control called, they always put it on on both axles. I think, yeah, I mean, here you sometimes feel when you're running over some bumps that it is a little harder than in the rear. So while in the front you feel a little bit harder, in the rear you feel the car is flowing a little bit. Maybe I'm just imagining it, but that's what Michelle thinks. Do you agree? In the front a little bit harder than in the rear? Yeah? Okay, he agrees. Yeah. He is able to speak, by the way. You've maybe seen one or two reviews from Michel, where he was also reporting on camera. He's also able to speak. That's just to clear it out. But he's also very good at sign language. So sign language is great, yeah. So let's hop on to the motorway. This one here again. Then you can also check out the blind spot monitor here, a yellow triangle in the side mirrors. One of the first options I would go for, the autonomous emergency brake. Glad that it is from standard equipment. That's the most important one. And then we also have the adaptive cruise control, which is working really smoothly and flawlessly, and you can already see that again in the head-up display. I wish you could always see that in a small camera mounted here, but it's not possible. So the best head-up display on the market comes from BMW, that's certain. And you can also activate a button at the steering wheel with a small steering if you have this top trim for the assistant systems, because then the car is also able to steer itself. So BMW has worked a little bit even on this automated pilot system, and what you can do if you have the highest trim, you can also induce a lane change, and you hold down the shifting indicators. Well, it's supposed to have a hand on the steering wheel, and now First of all, the car did not want to change. Of course, another vehicle is coming with CRC. That was flawlessly done, so very nice. We can also switch it back again. So hold the turning indicator. Again, usually leave the hand at the steering wheel, but here I want to show you that the car is really doing what it's supposed to do. And so this one is already working. For example, you would usually do it like this. So leave the hand at the steering wheel and still use the shifting indicator. That's how it's supposed to be done. The question is really, why do you let the turning indicator do it, not just steer over yourself? But then again, you know, that's just another step towards the autonomous driving. However, BMW can always score just with the sheer driving dynamics, of course, and that is great with this car. Especially, I mean, maybe if you think about an E43 or so, it has also great driving dynamics, but then it's also the question how much fun it is. And there, BMW always really gets it that they make the vehicles fun to drive, and that is one of the brand's claim, and basically it's also true for the most models, that's for sure. So rolling here very relaxed, and this is also what this diesel would mainly be for, to really go long ways and you know, also have good efficiency. Let's see what's the current result here. I have to check a little bit above the steering wheel, because I have the steering wheel a little bit higher than I would usually ride with it, that you can also see the speed we are running at the moment. So that's the explanation for that. Oh, we're a little bit high here, right? Let's see. So for example, if we would reset it right now, and if we just run on this motorway with 100 on the cruise control, then the consumption would merely be 5 liters on 100 kilometers. If you just do it, you know, like you're doing it right now. And of course, we would just take a look at here when we also accelerate a little bit further, and if you go into city riding, and steady speed is always good for consumption, just keeping remaining speed. Also, we're going in a straight line, but before I reset it here, it was going way above 10 liters. So the truth is always something in between. If you take a look at the European figures for fuel consumption, you usually can add about 3 liters per hour on kilometers and then get the real value. The US figures for MPG is usually a little bit more exact. So now finally we can accelerate some little more. Oh, Ford Mustang fastback here. You don't see them too often in Germany, rather in the US. Also starting to rain. Today we do not have the X-Drive. When driving, you don't feel it too much if you have the X-Drive mount or not, because the vehicles are also very powerful. They are rear-wheel driven, so you also don't lose traction at the front wheels also. It will make sense with the X-Drive if you have even more power and the very big engines than like the 550i, or when you really have very slippery conditions. This is just a little bit of rain, it's not too slippery. The overview, by the way, is very good. The Touring leaves a better side to the rear, also to the rear mirror. The side windows are rather upright due to this rather conservative layout of the vehicle. So although the car is relatively big, you have a quite good feeling of it. And shown you earlier, the camera system also does its job to maintain that all that basically good overview. Maybe the A-pillar is a little bit too thick. Sometimes you think it's blocking the view just a little bit. So, and this, I mean, the main thing is that it's also a fun autonomous vehicle. Now we're hammering the brakes a little bit. You feel the weight of the vehicle, but the brakes are generally also well in the dimension for that car. A lot of traffic always around Munich, for example. So if you think about going to Munich to hammer on the Autobahn, there's some Autobahn parts you've seen in the 550i video where you can drive unlimited speed. but just some, and then you always have to check the traffic, you know, that you really don't get in some dangerous situations. So, and you can really enjoy every lane change with the 5 Series. That's what it's all about. And of course, always the performance when you hammer it here. Plop, and already to 100 once more. So one of the best Autobahn vehicles, that's for sure. And now the consumption is already up at 6.5 liters. But you already get the picture that if you compare it to the big petrol engine, you can save a lot of fuel, that's for certain. So what we will do, we will drive even longer, and at the very, very final stages of this day, when we do some more 100 or 200 kilometers off camera, then we will also tell you the very final consumption just in a comment, that you have a better comparison than what to expect with this 530D. And now to our conclusion, 5 Series Touring here for the BMW. So it was very interesting, as we have more versatility in the rear, of course. We still have the same features also with the remote parking control. I've shown you with the M550i sedan. And so there's also the possibility that we just continue talking and the car says goodbye then. So exterior, I think elegant sedan, that's for sure. Interior, quite versatile and also high class in the building process. 3 years later then. And also driving-wise, of course, good dynamics. I think BMW is really leading in the driving dynamics for sure. Also with the touring, it doesn't make a big difference if it's a touring or a sedan. They drive quite like. Just the air suspension is, of course, a difference. And I do like air suspension, as they offer you a lot of comfort. So, but you have to say that already the basis suspension here from the 5 Series is that great that you don't necessarily need an air suspension. Here it just makes sense if you really have a lot of stuff then in the rear, that you still get the very same level then. And so for the touring it might make sense. In general, the suspensions we see from BMW, very good. The big diesel is very, very powerful, and so it's also basically enough to have this one. You don't need a more powerful one. You can also go for a smaller in general. So I want to hear your feedback. Which one is your favorite 5 Series, your favorite 5er BMW? Is it the Touring or is it the sedan? Which version are you dreaming of at the moment? The Mercedes E53 AMG. You wanted to see this one especially. They have now renamed the 43 to 53. We'll tell you some more about the differences later, but of course deliver you everything on exterior, interior and a sporty driving experience with this powerful AMG model. You've already seen that we have the Estate, or T-Modell as we call it in Germany for today, but everything we tell you will count for both sedan and the Estate model. There will just be the trunk that is the difference. Everything else will be the same. In the front, the E53 features my favorite Mercedes grille with this diamond pin, also with a special AMG logo. Then the sensors are hidden behind the Mercedes logo. The color for today is Kevin's Side Blue, a very elegant dark blue color. Really amazing, and you see I also had the closes accordingly. I know you guys like that, so I do that. Well, my favorite personally would be the Brilliant Blue. That won't be the Thomas Blue, a little bit brighter, but this one here surely also looks elegant. Then the E-Class features 2 LED light strips in the front for the daytime running light. You've seen it maybe in our comparison episode with A-Class, C-Class, E-Class and the S-Class, how that changes on throughout. If you haven't done so far, check out that episode, pretty cool. And those ones here, LED is standard, then the multi-beam LED is the option here also for the high beam. The E53 also features more sporty spoilers in the lower part, so overall looks more impressive in the front. 4,92 meters or 16'1", or should I better now say 194 inches? We had that discussion now lately, if I should better put the US measurement in inches than in feet. Give me your feedback to that, please. Today, 3 measurements, but I want to really limit it to 2. That's enough, I think. 19-inch, it starts with the E53. That's also what we have today, together with winter tires. I think that's also a good choice. If you go for bigger rims, they might reduce the comfort. Here also with the dual tone trim. Then we also have the night package, which gives you black mirror caps, also black frames around the windows. So overall a dark design together with the blue. If you want, you can also have it in the chrome style if you rather prefer that bright style. The Estate, of course, continues right there, whereas the sedan would fall down from the roof line. Overall, a rather round design shape at the side here, but definitely, especially in the color, very elegant here also for an Estate style. A strong horizontal layout here for the rear design with the chrome stripe here across the car, and then this, if you look at that in detail at the rear lights, this crystal design, really beautifully done. The only thing we can always argue about are those exhaust tips, because they are indeed fake. It's also not 4 exhausts, they're actually 2 exhausts if you look inside. So there's behind those 2 tips is just 1 hidden right there, but they surely still sound powerful, also with the rear diffuser then styling wise for the E53. Suspension wise, by the way, a normal E-Class Estate automatically comes with a 2-chamber air suspension at the rear axle. If you go for the optional full air suspension, you get it then for both axles. Then it's then a 3-chamber air suspension for both axles. That's also the one we have here in the E53. Just the difference that it has an AMG setup, making it way stiffer. Can it still feel like an air suspension? We'll talk about that when we drive the car very soon. In general, the E-Class offers a 2-liter 4-cylinder engines and 3-liter 6-cylinder engines, both for petrol and diesel. And of course, for the petrol, also the 4-liter 8-cylinder for the 63 AMG models. This one, the 53 AMG models, replacing the 43 models. Here also with a nice engine cover. This one now also a mild hybrid, so 435 horsepower plus 22 horsepower EQ boost, 48 volt board net, and you can also recuperate in this bigger battery then for fuel economy, and also for more boost a little bit. 4.5 seconds is the acceleration figure to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. And of course, always with all-wheel drive here. Let's experience the interior together. Here this aluminum mesh style as a deco element integrated with the ambient light. Then the Burmester surround sound system, it's an option. Great sound. Inside of the doors does allow some bigger bottles, but not too big. Then inside here you can again see those decor elements. This is a dual screen setup, the top trim setup. As for the screens, I'll soon tell you more about that. If you wonder about that sticker, by the way, in Germany we get in test vehicles with the winter tires or with those stickers. Oh, just drive 240 kilometers an hour, not much more. Yeah, about 240 kilometers an hour, where to drive that. This is the performance steering wheel, you can see here, with Dynamica microfiber at the sides. Really cool, I can recommend that. And yeah, there will be some people saying, oh, that wears out faster, but also leather wears out fast. And this one here feels good. It's warm in winter times and it stays cool in summer times. You always get a good grip. And if you pay 100,000 euros for a vehicle, I think you can also afford to maybe get that re-wrapped after 5 years or something for a couple of €100, whatever. Then those seats here, those are the optional performance seats. You get normal sport seats with the AMG 53 as a base. I would recommend those because those performance seats here, they have bigger shoulder area and stuff and lower thigh area. They hold you tighter. Better for the racetrack maybe, but not for everyday driving. There might be some rare people, maybe you also own those and think they're really great. Then, you know, lucky for you. But I speak for the majority of car customers and they will be happier with the base sport seats as they just are a little bit more plush, let you move around a little bit more freely and are just more comfortable on long-term run. Both of those seat forms, they usually start here with Dynamica microfiber on the inside and leatherette Artico or Ambitex on the outside, which is the very good combination. Those ones here are the optional animal skin pack, which you don't really need and they just pay extra money then for that, and you stick to that in the summer a little bit more and it's cold in winter. So the base setup seat, just save some money, stay with the base seats for this AMG 53 and you'll be fine. Now let's get inside. No shoe tip today because my feet are all clean. So yeah, I mean, it's the classic E-Class seating position, so you sit not too low. You have a good overview still, although it's not a small vehicle. Yeah, those seats then again, they are so stiff, so already when you get in you think like, am I going to ride like 200 kilometers with that now? Like a long road trip? And normally when you get in the base E-Class or the base sport seats, you take a seat and like, that's actually more comfortable than sitting in a normal chair. That's awesome, I can drive forever. So again, there might be some exceptions, but for most people, those performance seats just leave out that option. The steering wheel has an electronic adjustment right there in reach and also in height. And the electric seat control goes all from the inside of the doors. You can also put the lower area a little bit longer. I'm warming this 86 or 6'1", and we don't have a panoramic roof here today, so there's plenty of headroom left. But there will still be headroom left even if you go for the panoramic roof option. Interior usually starts with analog instruments on the left with a very small screen and on the right 8.4 inch. This one is the option with 2 times 12.3 inch. Of course, that looks pretty impressive. And you also get the better GPS system. The base GPS system with a small screen is horrible. So that's the biggest reason to go for the bigger screen here than with the command system. However, you can also, for example, pick the big one here and then stay with the analog on the left. That's also totally okay. I've seen that already. Overlapping here is a very central design. Also here, great interior design to my take. What about you? Round air vents. And also here in the AMG, you get the bright metal console, not the black piano lacquer. Separate function here still for colder and warmer temperature. Soon showing you also how it looks like at night. That's really funny, I can promise you. And the steering wheel here, the Sport AMG steering wheel, flat left and right with the Dynamica microfiber, also flat bottom, pretty sporty to use. And the Distronic now moves to the steering wheel that you can control it right here, the adaptive cruise control. So very good handling and overall I think a great styling in the interior. Left next to the steering wheel you can deactivate the assistance systems, and this button here is really funny. If you press this one here, then if those back head restraints would be up, they automatically move down. So you don't have touch yet, but with the right thumb you can control the right infotainment screen. That's helpful while driving. And then with the left thumb you just do it here for the central instruments. That's of course pretty helpful. And here you can also change the styles, for example, or adjust the head-up display. So it's really flexible. I would rather stay with the classic gauges, but you can also pick, for example, those or the AMG Sport gauges. And the head-up display will feature the speed, the allowed speed or direction, but also some GPS information if you have set a direction too. The infotainment system is not touch yet as the new MBUX. This one is not the new MBUX. but it's the recent iteration of the older system. Here again, GPS. It's not flickering, by the way, in real life. It is somehow okay from the responsiveness. Overall, you can be satisfied. The MBUX voice control is, of course, working better than this one here, but you already have one. But this one here is not like free speech. You have to move along those commands. That's, of course, really more helpful with the new MBUX. Other than that, you can connect your phone either via Bluetooth, wirelessly, or you can go with the Apple CarPlay if you have the cable set in. That's, of course, pretty helpful. And then you can also listen to music while going to the car GPS. So one feature I want to show you while being in the basement garage about that ambient light. It's really cool. When I put the temperature higher, it appears in red everywhere to signalize I put it warmer, and when I put it colder, it appears in blue. That is pretty fancy, right? And then, of course, you can change the ambient light in general. That's also possible. So here we can adjust the colors from a brighter style, more into a purple one. Pretty fancy for sure. More to a red one. Then we go right into this blue area. Violet, really blue. That's, of course, fitting to the car. Then you can also have it in green, and it's really well done how you can see that we're in this rather sensual style with this vehicle. Also yellow is possible, or then just a very bright one. But I mean, just as for the exterior color, I of course stick with the blue. What ambient light would you set your vehicle to? The middle console features cup holders, and then this connection with the cable here for the smartphone. But in the middle part, this is also the part where you have the inductive charging platform. Then you can still use this classic control for the central entertainment system, pressing and turning. Some hotkeys for adjusting suspension, also the driving modes, talking about the driving modes when we drive the car very soon. Finally, this middle armrest in a split way. There you have two more USB supplies. As for the rear, there's also the nice ambient light here at the inside of the doors for the rear seats. Then, when I have the seat as I would be driving as a tall driver, you need to move the seat a little bit up that the feet can be put under the seat there. Other than that, there's still knee room left. So that's actually quite okay. The seats are also a little bit slimmer here. I think this is probably the only advantage of those performance seats. Then, headroom still, no problem. It's somewhat also okay in a sedan, but of course the estate model here gives you a little bit more room towards the back part here. And it's actually quite cozy seating position here. But again, the general problem of this very segment, the upper mid-size segment, is that the cars are pretty long and they don't have so much room on the inside as the length is promising. And also the rear bench is not as comfortable as, for example, in some of the SUVs. You always fall back just a little bit. But in general, I think you can go with 4 people here in a quite comfortable way. Isofix at the outside parts. We also have some Alcantara inserts here. And then there's this middle armrest where we have some more storage and cup holders. To flip them in again in parallel. So there we go. And then there's also a separate climate unit for the rear part. So don't have to go for it, but you can then, when you want it, adjust the temperature also right here in the rear. And you have 2 USB supplies and a 12-watt power supply. And flipping the seats from here is electric, doing like this. And also, if it is needed, the front seat automatically moves to the front a little bit. And the ski hatch is also possible if you just want to flip the middle part. And by the way, sitting in the middle part, you see there's a big middle tunnel here, and you have to put the feet right and left next to it. So let's take a look at the trunk, electric tailgate. The maximum liter figure is 1,820 liters. I'll soon show you that. First of all, some measuring. So the normal trunk length is about 1 meters 13. That's actually pretty long already. And in the width, let me just put here between those wheel arches, and that's right over a meter. It's like 1.10 meters in width. That's also quite cool. And the height here until the cover, and the cover is about 47, and to the total height is here the middle part 74 centimeters. Very well done, by the way, that this top cover here moves up when the hatch opens and it moves down when the hatch is closing. Really cool. This is an additional floor mat, by the way, you don't have to go for it. And below that you could also fit a replacement tire, otherwise there's some more storage underneath. Then, just to show you, when you put a cabin trolley in here, there's really plenty of room left. And of course the big advantage if you compare it to the sedan. And you can flip the seats electronically right there, left and also on the right. Here we go, and then you have the maximum setup. Welcome. That is comfort mode, but you already hear some exhaust note, of course. But what about, since it's a performance vehicle, we put it in Sport Plus here. And the exhaust noise is a little louder. Also, when you let off the throttle, then you hear the roaring sound. Sometimes, not always. But interesting is, this suspension here is this AMG Ride Control Plus, but it is based still on the air suspension, and well, it is hard to feel in it because they have made it pretty stiff, so it's not this floating soft air suspension you might know from a normal E-Class with an air suspension. But the E53, or former also the 43, has a suspension setup that is still somehow suitable for everyday driving.
Stauende voraus.
Interesting. So the GPS just told me that there would be the end of a traffic jam ahead. Without I didn't have any GPS route set or something. But that's pretty helpful, There's also this new assistant system they've been introducing now in the recent Mercedes facelift, or the new models, that the Distronic, so the adaptive cruise control, already reduced the speed if you're going like really fast, like it's a German thing, sorry, like 150 or something. There's the end of the traffic jam. So it was really good to have the info, but we're getting off here anyway. But really good as for the safety feature. Here now again the acoustic warning from the autonomous emergency braking assistant, which is standard for the vehicle. But what I want to talk about is when you're driving really fast, and then the Distronic would automatically reduce to at least 100 kilometers per hour if the map info says there's a traffic jam end. So very interesting that they recently developed this system. So we're going to do some city driving now, and then we're hammering it out again on the motorway on another part. Also, we have a part where we have unlimited speed to really give you the full performance of this vehicle. Well, but you already heard and seen that this 3-liter engine has more than sufficient power, and 4.5 seconds to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour is really something, especially for a vehicle of this size. The 63 is a second faster, but then again the suspension setup there is in a way that it's so stiff that you wouldn't enjoy it big time on your normal driving routes. Probably. I mean, there are surely some who say, I really want that stiff setup, but I'm always trying to talk for the majority of possible customers of such a vehicle. And here in the city, of course, we would rather stay in the comfort mode. We always get a nice visualization, of course. And then also the bumps are evened out quite well. Interesting, by the way, also, since we parallel have this Volvo V60, the mid-size vehicle, this one here upper mid-size, so this one's like, that longer. This one here feels more agile to move. Yes, it's an AMG version, but also when I'm thinking about being in a basement garage and going front and back, turning the wheel, the steering wheel, it's easier. It's maybe because of this Mercedes system that they put the wheels a little bit to the side then to reduce the turning circle. Also from the rear view camera, it is really one-to-one live. In the Volvo, it lags a little bit behind. So it would be the same for the direct compare the V90 to this car. So sometimes in the Volvo, when they say, oh, it's getting, a little bit close, and then the beep tone comes like 1 or 2 seconds later. Too late, actually. And here it's really live. That looked like real fur. Disgusting. So here in the city, you already hear that it's super silent. Don't have to raise my voice at all. This car is also equipped with the optional acoustic package. All test vehicles from journalists you will ever see will have the acoustic package, at least if they are officially supplied by Mercedes. Maybe not every rental car or something, but of course they put in the acoustic package that they make the cars more silent. You can get it as a customer, of course, again for an extra price. The car will also be silent without the acoustic package, but here with the acoustic package, it's of course super silent and among the most silent ones in the industry overall. Just if you have the AMG version, then you start to hear the exhaust. Or maybe if the truck is really loud next to you. But it's such a smooth ride already with the E-Classe. It's always great to have this vehicle, and it is surely among my most favorite in the other mid-size segment. Moreover, of course, as for the riding comfort, when you have the non-AMG suspension, because if you seek the most comfort, then you wouldn't even go for a 53. You would maybe like pick a 400 or so, and then pick the air suspension, or maybe just the base engine to keep the price lower. And then of course the seats, as I've told you earlier, I mean, for sport seats they are somewhat still okay, and the car is so comfortable overall, but then again they are so stiff it doesn't make sense at all, really. If you're on a racetrack, yes, but if I think about now, I'm in one of the most comfortable, most silent, most refined cars overall in the whole automotive industry, and somehow I still feel like they should be more comfortable. I'm not too happy with the seating, and I mean, sitting in an E-Class and not be too happy with the seating is like, what? So yeah, told you earlier, enough about that. Unless you're one of the very few guys who are actually happier with the super stiff seats, most or the majority of the possible customers will be happier with the base sport seats. And yes, they're even sportier, the base sport seats, than the normal ones, but they will still do fine. I already know them, and they are plush enough basically to have a good seating surface. Now here, before we get to the more faster part, it's a good chance to test the adaptive cruise control. I now always see it also in the head-up display. That's good. I increased the speed here at the left side of the steering wheel, and I have also for you the speed in the middle part. On the right side we have those performance indicator gauges. They are also pretty helpful for sure. And here I don't do any braking now at the moment, so the car is reducing speed on its own. Of course, always be aware, never trust those automatic systems 100%. They are very reliable, but they shouldn't replace the driver. When the cars are moving, it's usually no problem, but those systems are not set up to react 100% on standing objects. So imagine there would be standing traffic in front of me. They're not rolling, they're already standing, and I'm coming from behind. There are situations where cars are not catching that. The Mercedes system is one of the most refined on the market, and since more systems and sensors play together, it's usually working as well. That, for example, not the Distronic, the ACC is scanning that, but then already the autonomous emergency brake is scanning the standing object. You know, with those moving objects, why is it that they are not reacting so well on that sometimes? Because when there's, for example, a big sign at the road, or there's a bridge over the road, that's just basically a standing object. And if the sensors would be very sensitive to that, the car would maybe stop with a false negative, you know, like it would just stop even though it shouldn't stop. So they really don't adjust it to, you know, to standing objects. But here again with the Mercedes so far, I did not experience that they failed. I think at the moment they are at the top of the game here. Now getting to the motorway again, and well, Sport Plus, better don't use it on the road. I just do it here for show purposes. It's dry, then it's basically okay. And when you say like, hey, let's accelerate from 75 to 100, it's like, plop, that's already 110. So it's instantaneously. And the sound is nice. The acceleration is great. Not missing a V8 here. Really refined. Yes, it is a difference when you have a 6-cylinder than, you know, to compare to a 4-cylinder. You do feel that definitely. Here again, then setting the cruise control. And by the way, there is also here this automatic lane change possible, basically. Let's see if it's not doing in the corner here. See, the car is, yeah, overtaking me on the right side, although 100 is just allowed. Now reducing the speed. Well done. So you've seen that the car is being kept in the lane. I should keep my hands on the steering wheel just to show you that the car is still doing the job on its own. The automatic lane change is also available, but I think it didn't do it now because we were in a corner. Let's see if we do that again on a straight part. Again, the assistance system's working very well. This EQ boosted engine, or also EQ charged engine, so to say, with the mild hybrid system, always signaling me in the instruments when I'm recharging some of the battery or when the boost is being used. We had that already in the CLS. It's not a bad system, no, and you need it to power also all the new electronic equipment and stuff. And it's a transition process for sure. But it doesn't do the biggest game changing or something as for the consumption, you know. You can score low consumption if you like, so I'm actually quite satisfied. At the moment we are about 9 liters on 1 kilometers, driving calmly. If you hammer it a little bit more through, you'll rather get so to like 10 liters or something. And let's just get in this roundabout here. I really like to drive that one. So getting towards 10 liters in 1 kilometers, that would be then about 23 mpg. That's a realistic consumption, and you can also score then, you know, about 9 if you keep it steady, then more towards 26 mpg. But I think 10 liters or 23 mpg is more the realistic figure if you also have some city driving. Here again, see how calm the car stays in the roundabout, very precise as well. The steering could be a little bit more progressive, but that's always with Mercedes. So they in general have a rather not so progressive driving setup. So they let the driver steer a little bit more, you know. You can see it here. Now this is almost 180 degrees. See, I have to turn the steering wheel almost all the way around. I would like really when they have, you know, they don't have to steer that much. But however, the calibration so is good that there is no real dead zone. It was a little bit different recently in the GLE, but here in the AMG setup, it is already a little bit more progressive, and you see there is no real dead zone. I feel that something is happening. There's some resistance, you know. So that's well done. The Mercedes steering, when you rather like a very natural steering feeling, and if you want it more progressive, that is more with the Volkswagen group, like VW, Audi, Porsche and stuff. And BMW is somewhat in between those two groups, but definitely always very interesting, you know, to experience those very differences between the single manufacturers. Look at here. Wow, hardly any tilting when going in the corner. Oh, what about an automatic lane change here? No, the green system wasn't. There we go. So, let's see. Oh, there's a car about to overtake me. I can also show you the blind spot monitor. Look at that red triangle appearing now. So that's good. And if I put the... That was maybe already too late. So if I put the turning indicator at the same time, then there's also a flashing red triangle. Yeah, there we go. Lane change to the left. I did not steer it, you know. So I can show you that again. Lane change to the right. Car is doing it for me. Yeah, of course, you can always argue, like, how useful is that? I don't know. It's just this transition towards the possible autonomous driving. In this vehicle, you most of the time want to drive actively yourself. We will soon do it in a very active way. Yeah, but just wanted to show you that it's possible. Again, so cool how confident this ride is here on the motorway. You can really relax on the one hand, but then again you have so much power reserves. So great from the performance. I'm going to show you that because I'm going off the motorway right now, and then we'll go on the motorway again and accelerate really hard. So when the sports mode, the gears are turned up higher, shifting up later, shifting down earlier, and also the stability control is drawn back. Therefore, you should not use the sport modes when it's any slippery surface, and not the Sport Plus if you're not an experienced driver for sure. It's not completely deactivated, but it's drawn back. So again, you just have to get used to the car first. That's just, safety disclaimer here on Autogefühl. You know, at Autogefühl is always safety first. We show you a lot of performance stuff as well. Of course, the first goal is not to do any accidents, not to damage the test vehicles, not to endanger any other car drivers or animals or whatsoever. So now again to the Sport Plus mode. You can check out those. Oh, sorry, I was still using the indicator. You can check out the speed in the middle part. You can check out also this kilowatt, in the middle part, also in the Newton meter. And we'll seek a safe spot to get on the motorway and just hammer it through. Maybe just right before the truck. I'll start from 40 and let's go. So that's 200 kilometers or 125 miles per hour. Wow. Felt powerful but refined. And even at about 200, it's still super silent here in the car, Wow. Here at 180, you put down throttle and there's still something happening. Really crazy stuff. You can also shift down yourself with the pedals. Okay, that was one too much. Then hold the right pedal again to get in this automatic shifting mode once more. And now relax again. Slow speed, maybe the comfort mode, cruise control. Everything is mellow. So that's what the car is also about. You can have both ways here in the E53. The soft, relaxed driving and the really powerful AMG stuff. Again, if you seek more comfort, don't pick the 53, but this one here does still represent a compromise. Again, if you ask me, like, Oh, here again the ambient light. Pretty nice in the tunnel. Wait a minute, what else can we do in a tunnel? Yeah. Oh, the SOS phone is already ringing, probably because they heard the sound. Yeah, so I have to keep the speed here in the tunnel for the police. But really nice to hear the sound then, you know. Maybe once I put the windows lowered. Okay, sometimes I can be a child, yes. So, and now, being serious again, we can go to 100. Go to comfort. Cruise control in. I would always pick the ACC, the Distronic there. It's pretty helpful. If you, by the way, want to deactivate some of the assistance systems, you can always put it here or deactivate them here left next to the steering wheel. In the newer cars, they have left that one out. But I think it's still quite handy to do that. By the way, also one of those keys I showed you earlier with where they put the, it's so effortless in the corner. I mean, it was quite fast still in the corner, and he's like, oh, you know, 80 kilometers getting off the motorway. Because the car is so confident and so stable. Really great ride. Or what do you think? Still one of the most impressive rides here, I think, at the moment. And yeah, I was just about to finish this thought. So if you ask me, I have tons of money, I don't care at all about money. Should I get the 53 or the 63? I would still tell you, go for the 53. It's the more balanced car. You have a little bit less weight on the front axle due to the 6-cylinder instead of the 8-cylinder. So I feel the car is handling a little bit better. It is a better overall setup for the vehicle. You also have the all-wheel drive. Well, now they put also the all-wheel drive in the very powerful models. In the past it was like this, that the 43 was always all-wheel drive and then the 63 rear-wheel drive. They're now also putting the all-performance model to all-wheel drive as well. Also now the case with the 63 that it has all-wheel drive. But here with the all-wheel drive, it has this rear-wheel bias still. It will adjust a little bit on the situation. But you've also seen that with the big acceleration we just had, that was very harmonious. You know, due to the all-wheel drive, you're not feeling that aggressive in the car. You're not being pushed or pulled other way too much. It's really balanced out. So you experienced a very powerful acceleration, but yet it was, you know, somehow stable and harmonious going forward. And that's of course due to the all-wheel drive giving you more grip, and especially in slippery situations when you think about past days where, you know, we had like those 400-500 horsepower performance cars just on the rear axle. Still there's some left out there. For the normal car customer, that's just too much, and you would just, you know, slide out. But then with the all-wheel drive, you have some more safety, that you also have some torque on the front wheels, especially for example for winter situation. So, and one more acceleration from you when we're already at about 80 kilometers. Wow. 200 and in the corner here, and still stable, good feeling, good feedback. Just so much confidence. So you should be aware of that this car, when you're driving really fast, you sometimes feel like, wow, am I really going that fast? Because it doesn't feel that fast. You should be aware of that, especially as for the speeding tickets. Both sedan and estate, they drive the same for sure. The 53 with a diamond pin grille, very beautiful, my favorite front grille. Very elegant exterior, one of my favorite estates. What about you? Interior, super sensual design, also this dual screen setup looks pretty cool, but they don't have the newest software on there. You know, that's a disadvantage if you pick newer infotainment systems for newer cars, then the older ones always look dated. That's about the same thing with the infotainment system here. But overall, I still like the interior pretty much. Even more if you stick with the base sport seats, which will do more in the comfort and also keep the price down. You also have reasonable space on the interior, and of course the estate has a big advantage to the sedan that you have a more versatile trunk especially. The driving, just superb. The 53 adds a better compromise than the 63. Here you can still somehow balance comfort and sportiness, and the E-Klasse overall is such a silent ride, such a confident ride, and here with some more sporty fun. And I could score some lower consumption figures later on even. I can give you an update on that. So it seems that this mild hybrid system, yes, it's not like total different world in consumption, but it surely seems to help you, especially like in city driving situations where you can use this recuperation a little bit more. So why not? So considering the powerful performance and also the size of the vehicle, the consumption is still quite decent. Well, so overall, still a really great car, one of the dream estates there is on the market, but the price, I mean, come on. The T-Model or the estate here is already a couple of €1,000 more expensive than a normal sedan, so you pay at least, taking German reference price, about €40,000. Then if you go for the E53, that's already doubling the price to 80,000. Wow, I mean, that's not really justifying everything. And then if you go for some more extra specs like the Burmester sound system and some of the infotainment stuff we went here for, wow, €150,000, and that's where my understanding is just ends. I think that's just too expensive. So I can rather recommend you then to go maybe for a smaller petrol engine, not pick everything full spec with the E-Klasse, and you still already will have a great upper mid-size vehicle. Volvo V90, the estate version, or the Kombi as we say in German. Let's start with the front here. For the V90, it's the same as in the S90. This is an inscription trim level, the top luxury trim level, and here the front grille has those vertical fins. Overall a beautiful seamless Scandinavian design, especially also with those Thor's Hammer LED lights which have this T LED signature, a key element of the new Volvos. Also the V40 facelift recently received that one, and also stronger lower bump here in the inscription trim level. And you will soon see the R design difference. There the front grille has this dot design. Which one do you prefer? But overall I think the front of the new V or S90, one of my favorites. Also yours? 4.96 meters or 16'3" is the total length of this vehicle. It's the same as in the S90. Here, of course, the V90, the biggest difference is that we got the continuous roofline for the estate version. If you wonder, by the way, why we're in a parking lot here today, well, it's raining quite heavily outside meanwhile, and here is a safe and dry spot. And I always think that those parking lots here always deliver a very special atmosphere. I hope you enjoy that with us here as well. Let's take a look at the rims, because they're here in 20" in the inscription trim level. Overall, you start from 17 to maximum of 22. In the S90 review, we gave you a lot of rim choices. If you're interested in that, before your order maybe, also check out those. And you can also go with smaller ones, maybe 19 for example, then it will still look really great. And the color, this bright blue, is called muscle blue. not like this muscle, but more the muscle at the sea, you know, at the shore. Door handles, really huge, and have those chrome accentuations as well as the chrome right here. And I always love it when you see the raindrops right here over the car. That looks really so beautiful. And inscription chrome at the lower part of the car as well. And then this roof rail. And some might say, yeah, the Swedes, they used to build great estates. Will it also be the case today? We will soon take a look inside. But you can already see it right here. We don't lose too much space on the inside. So there are a lot of estates nowadays that fall down quite early. And then you lose a lot of space on the inside. It's not the case here. Design line above the door handles and then the strong shoulders that form those vertical taillights we already know from the XC90. And they also sit on the same platform. And here we can see the taillights up close. They really remind us of the XC90 and are fundamentally different to the S90. And some of you said, not really satisfied with the S90 taillights. I also think this one here is more beautiful, although I'm more of a shape fan guy of a sedan. But here I think the rear is more beautiful with the Estate. What's your opinion? Put me that one in the comments. You pay about 3,000 euros extra for the Estate version. That's not cheap. But if you, for example, compare a Mercedes E-Class Estate, that is even more expensive than in the T-Modell version, as we say in Germany. So overall, is quite okay from the extra price here. And it's about 45,000 euros. It starts in Germany and will be about $50,000 in the US overall. And what else? This one here, V90 T5. This is a big petrol engine, and here's the inscription badge that says this is the inscription version. Also features some chrome elements at the lower part, and those fake exhaust, the real one is hidden down there. And as a comparison, this is the R design. You can see here this front grille with a kind of dot structure in dark black. Which one do you like more? And also the lower part is a little bit more aggressive, again with this black style. Of course, I really love the stronger blue color here from the R design. And the side profile does not feature a chrome lip in the lower part, but side mirror contrast in bright silver or matte silver, very beautiful, and 21-inch rims. Those ones are even optional for the R design. And wow, really huge. You have to be careful not to damage them. And the rear differences are minor. You see here a little bit more chrome contrast. And again here a more sporty dark style. This is the special inscription car key. They could do it with faux leather, that would be sufficient, but they didn't. So, and then slim to fit in the pocket. Solid door handles, really huge. See, like this, they open a little bit to the front as well. Very funny process. And solid closing sound. Overall, car makes a very good build impression quality. My favorite is this open cell wood here. I would always go for that. And yes, I don't have any problems with cutting off trees. Then everything in the bright surface here, and usually the outside parts are from faux leather and the seat parts from the genuine animal skin. Here chrome again is used, solid metal, everything. Really love the build quality. Then first look at the interior. What is interesting, from a style, I mean, this fitting, bright surfaces to the muscle blue on the exterior, that is a very beautiful setup. However, they are lacking of animal skin alternatives here in the higher trim levels. You have to go for the momentum trim level to get cloth seats, for example, or R design, then for at least microfiber on the inside. Instruments all digital, soon more details to that. The steering wheel does not very much fit to the rest of the car, but what does fit very well are those entry caps at the lower part, and as it's not very bright here, you can also see how they are illuminated at night. And storage space at the inside of the doors, you can see it right here, how you can also put bottles in here, not too big. And let's get inside. For the inscription trim level, you have to calculate about 20,000 bucks extra. That's a lot of money. So my price performance would be to go for middle trim level and momentum trim level, because usually you already got everything you need inside there then, and you can just pick some options extra. What I love most about the Volvo cars are actually two things. First of all, the serial safety equipment. Autonomous emergency brake is, for example, always included in every Volvo, and also a lot of the other assistance systems, and therefore also the Volvo cars are one of the safest on the roads. The second thing is the comfort of the seats, and the seat form itself really fits my body very well. They're high enough, broad enough, and they offer you a great long-term comfort. You can also set it here electronically, everything up and down. Rear part of the seats, this is here for the front part to lengthen the seating area for taller people like me. It's really, oh wow, that goes really long in there. And here you can also then change later on when we put the car on. I can show you that as well. We've got a storage space in the front of this, and here it slides down smoothly. Wasn't it a little bit more weird in the S90 before? Maybe they fixed it. Here, look at that, wow. Smoothly, great build quality. The steering wheel can be adjusted like this, manually to all four ways. Just the design of the steering wheel, I think I've told you that when reviewing the XC90. I think the design of the steering wheel does not fit the rest of the car. I would have wished something else there. Also, the parts here on the steering wheel, they are not that premium as the rest of the car. You know, maybe they think about a new steering wheel in a facelift, and also the R-Design steering wheel looks a little bit better. But overall, a great comfort. Of course, you sit lower than in the XC90 as it's a sedan or an estate, but still a good position here for long-term run, and probably among the best in this upper mid-size segment. Cockpit overview, and really a beautiful job. And one of my favorites also in this segment of this clean Scandinavian design, horizontal lines right there, and also the structure. We can take a detailed look at that one soon. It is artificial plastic, but it has a very interesting structure. It feels high class and also looks high class premium. Those vents on the vertical side, maybe that's the only thing that's not fitting 100%. Other than that, we got this open cell soft wood used here, and again the remark here, you can use wood from sustainable sources. You cannot slaughter animals in a sustainable way. That's the difference between using animal skin seats and wood in a car. Then Bowers & Wilkins sound system, we will soon test that one. I can already promise you this is really great stuff. Less buttons here, everything is moved into the infotainment screen. We will soon tell you more about that. Warning indicators and just the mandatory buttons are used here, and you can still control the sound, but that's it. By the way, also nice from the sound. Then the automatic shifting lever, and here in the lower part you have those retractable covers, also with wood, good build quality, 12-volt power supply, and beverage holders inside here, so everything you might need. And again here, in the very first models of the XC90, we also found some of the parts which weren't like 100% fit. Meanwhile, the build quality is really at a premium level. Look here how the middle armrest was designed to fit the other part, and you can put up, and you see it's also heavily fixed. And CD or DVD slot, USB port. We will also plug in the phone right there, that we can show the infotainment system, and some more space in the middle part. And here you can stop and start the engine or the ignition with this diamond structure, and also for the driving modes. We will tell you more about the different driving modes when we drive the car. Then this infotainment screen, you get it optional in the higher trim levels. I think every Volvo V90 that leaves the plant will have this screen then, because hardly anyone buys the very, very, very basic Volvo. You control everything via touch. You have those different main screens, for example here with the basic apps. Then there's this screen here where you can also set it individually. To the left there's another one, for example, for the assistance systems, where you can deactivate park pilot and so on. This is the first basic setup you can go, and then the button here in the lower part always returns you to the main menu. And the buff pad here is for the settings. For example, I can also go to system here and change the language, and that's also a good sign. I didn't learn that before. It's a good sign for how easy a system is to control, and that is relatively intuitive, so you can find those things fairly easy. Especially the one thing above here, you have to learn that this one exists, and sometimes you're searching some systems, for example the camera. When you're going in the basement garage, you're searching for a button. Oh, which one can I press that I don't hit my car in the front? Remember to go like this, and then here hit camera. I can also show it when I turn on the ignition. Then camera will be available. You see everything pops up then here, then camera, and the resolution is really great. And if I close the door, we can also show you the other camera. I think it's this third door that is missing. And look at the screen while I'm closing the door, the rear door behind us. That's the traffic info, always very annoying. And also the rear hatch. Let's see if I can also close it from here, from the interior with the button. Then this camera appears and this camera appears. There we have it. The fake drone view from above. And there are also different views available. I can also switch the cameras, for example, to the rear view camera. There's our tripod and open suitcase, and the resolution is really crisp. And what is also great, here this vertical screen in this case helps us very much, because when you're going in the front you can see more. Look at the great resolution. So the camera system is one of the best we know on the market, definitely. Then more to the infotainment system. You can also adjust the head-up display, for example right here. Yeah, there it is, for example, on and out. I can see it in the front now. Then what else is important here? Phone. You can either add phone here and connect it via Bluetooth. That's the one possibility. The other possibility, you see here, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. I just plug it in. Here we go, there's Smoothie. So, start from Applications pane. And I have to unlock the phone then. So, theoretically it should work now. Oh. Okay. Maybe deactivate the flight mode. Sometimes it needs that to start. Well, I just did it and then it worked completely. Didn't have any problems yet. And what does it mean, start from Applications pane? We had to search for it a little bit, because most other cars, they directly start the Apple CarPlay, no matter what you do. Here you have to scroll right, and then there it is. And there will also Android Auto appear, and then you're fine with that one. So you've started that. You've chosen it, blah, blah. Okay. And then you have to disconnect and reconnect it again, the system says. Let's see. Yes. A little bit complicated, and then I have to access it right here. So, oh, and then we have the sound system. Nice. So that's the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, and I can also show you that. We go to here to sound experience. We can change a lot of stuff here. You can almost feel like a DJ here. And my favorite stuff is because you can change it to studio, for example. Sound optimized for rear seats or for all driver. You can really change that then, the sound characteristics. And my favorite is here, concert hall. Wow, that is really great stuff, because this is here for the Gothenburg Symphony Orchestra. They have imitated how the sound is inside here, and there you have a great surround sound. It will sound very weird when you're listening to radio, to a voice in the radio, but music is so great with that one. One of my favorite sound systems. So, and maybe we can also show you again the Apple CarPlay system right here. There it is how you can also access the phone, your music and the messages, and also use your own GPS over the phone. And what about the GPS in the Volvo itself? There we have it. You can go with it like an iPhone, but not directly like this. There it is. For example, here for zoom in and out. Here like this, you to change the tabs, but zooming in and out directly works. You can also maximize it, and then it's also possible to use it to scroll. You see the reaction time is very fast. And here again, the vertical setup helps. A horizontal one maybe looks more fancy somehow, but for GPS and for the camera system, a vertical setup is better. So overall, a very spectacular system here for the infotainment again. How do you like it? Instruments, they are all digital and have this ignition show for us. Right side RPM, left side speed, and in the middle one you can also have some information, for example, on the GPS, or also on your sound and so on. If you have picked something for the radio, I can scroll through some of the things here. You can also have your consumption, for example, right there. There, radio information. If you have a GPS goal mounted, you can also let that show in there. Here on the left side, you can also change the ACC, Adaptive Cruise Control, the different distance. We also test the ACC when we drive the car, of course. And there's also the voice command. Hello!
Searching music and radio. Music search. What would you like to listen to?
And this is how it looks like when you have a GPS mounted in there. And more storage spaces, for example, the glove box slides down smoothly, and enough space, and it can also be cooled. That's how you close it, and that's how you open it. The same as in the Audi Q5 recently, that the system for the cooled glove box is a little bit weird in the build quality. Then again, another look here at the storage space on the inside, how you can slide that open for small space there, 12-volt power supply, bottles fit like this. Adaptive, those beverage holders, and my favorite closing cover right there. And we have the optional panoramic roof mounted here, wow, with a purple light. Then you can slide that shade open. I mean, for example, when it's really hot. Of course, if you're living in a very hot climate, maybe leave that out completely, and then you can open it, and that is quite wide, and it lets in a lot of light. See, you can. That's the maximum position we got here now, and this will lose some headroom in the rear, but we can test it. And now to the rear compartment. Let's get inside. The doors open not that wide, but I mean, still, it's okay to get in here. Also, the beautiful Scandinavian design continued in the rear with the wood and the bright colors, and a lot of space in front of my knees. And wow, maybe the last time I tested it, I sat maybe too far to the rear. Now I've tested again. I'm 1.86 m or 6'1". Really a lot of space. Only I would maybe tell the driver to lift the seat a little bit up, that I can put my feet a little bit toward beneath the seat. That would be good. Then there's a net here. There will also be 12-volt power supply, illuminated, and also there's a climate control here for the rear seats. If I turn on the ignition, then we maybe also get a picture of that. No, and it's sometimes always a difference if you have to turn on the ignition or if you have to turn on the engine. In this case, I need to turn on the engine, and then you will see that there also the climate controls get illuminated right there. Now they are illuminated here, and then you can also control them. Let's see. There it is. So this is here for the temperature, right and left, and this would be here for clicking or sliding for the vent control. Very interesting luxury feature, and of course you have to pay for everything optional. Then what about the headroom? Because this is here important in the V version, and this is the big advantage in comparison to the sedan. And here you can see the estate version here, the Combi, has the same headroom with the panoramic roof, or even a little bit more than the S90 without the panoramic roof. So here you can even have tall persons in the rear and still order the panoramic roof. If you want the maximum headroom, then go for the estate here and leave the panoramic roof out. But still, even for tall people, you see it works, and the tall people, they have really a very good view to the outside. That will be great for traveling. Overall, a very good seating position here also in the rear. So comfortable, again, the Volvo unique feature that they offer those very comfortable seats. Some more space inside here, and beverage holders, they flip out like this. And you can also flip the seats. Isofix covers, by the way, for child seats. And flipping the seats, for example, goes right here. There it is. And you already see that this gives you a little even loading surface with a soft cover. Wow, great soft cover. And we have this 2/3, 1/3 split, basically. But we can also use this ski hatch right there. So I think we have to open it from behind, but here this is the hole then for the ski hatch. And let's see if we can also flip those seats from the rear. And now, and again, a special test. You might remember one of our XC90 reviews. There's a special feature where you can fold down the rear head restraints from the front when the car is turned on, that you have a better view to the rear when there's no passenger on the rear seat. And there are different sensors of how the car realizes that the car is sitting here, maybe with a seatbelt or also maybe with a weight sensor that is usually used on the front seats only. So let's try again. When I sit here and then press the headrest fold in the front, if those head restraints will fold down, then we'll test it again with the seatbelt on if the car reacts on that. So our cameraman Thomas today, yes, Thomas in front and behind the camera today, will now press the headrest fold button. I will hide myself that I don't get hit like last. Yeah, you see. So it does not work with the sensor that someone is sitting here. That should be improved. And let's now try on with the seatbelt. If the seatbelt then tells the car, hey, someone is sitting here. No, it does not. Think, Volvo engineers, something to do for you. Hey, what the hell? I almost got hit again. That's again when you want to, punish your children sitting here when they're maybe too loud and silence. Bam. Oh. But now seriously, with children, it might not damage me permanently, but with children, it's quite strong. So, but I don't try it with the children. Then to the hatch and the loading compartment, you can also press the button on the key. There it is. You have to press a little bit harder. Then you see the cover slides up automatically. That's a clean solution. You can also remove it manually completely. If you want to completely remove it, for example, then you have to go right here and then you can get it out. And there you see behind it, there's another option that you can put a cover right like this. What is interesting here, first of all, I mean, it's not like in the very, very old Volvo estates where you had really a square form in the rear. You do lose space here, yes. But then again, no one would probably buy those cars from design anymore. For fixation belts, practical and good high quality solution. Then you can flip out this one here to split the trunk, maybe to put just a backpack like this. This would be a possibility. And also use the net for very smaller parts, maybe when transporting something that shouldn't flip, when you were maybe guest at your grandma and want to transport some soup at home. So, and then this whole part can be put up as well. And I think there should also be some replacement tire available, I guess. Yeah, there it is. And then interesting here to flip the seats electronically, and the left part, very versatile solution. We also got a 12-volt power supply in here, and then you can see you have a really great loading space all through. And so yes, they can still build very versatile estates, a lot of space inside here, and again a big advantage if you compare it with the S90. And child safety. Yeah, it could be a little bit more sensitive. Mercedes had it a little bit more sensitive, but this is more sensitive than all of the cars from the Volkswagen Corporation. So I would say the standard result is quite okay. And you can also just go for a manual version of the hatch. Then you can grab it like this, for example. Sometimes I prefer a manual hatch because when you have something loaded in here, for example, like handlebars from a bicycle, then you can press it gently and see, does it fit? Does it not fit? With the electric one, bam, it closes and might damage something. So I'm more a fan of the manual work here in this case. And now also look in the interior from the R-Design variant. And as I've told you earlier, this one would be a good solution. For example, if you go for a higher trim level, and at least in the middle part, you have the microfiber option there, very beautiful from the design, and also better for the climate comfort, because this year it's very cold today, so it doesn't get cold. You feel it, it's cold here, but it's warm here. So it's not cold in winter and you don't sweat on it that much in summer times. Also, the R-Design features more carbon fiber elements. There's a real carbon fiber as a design highlight. There's a special steering wheel, this R-Design steering wheel with a badge at the lower part and perforated sides. And also more carbon fiber, for example, at the inside of the doors. So what's your favorite? Inscription or the R-Design from exterior or interior? And also the rear seats have the same design here. So my tip for you would be either go for a momentum trim level for price, performance and cloth seats, or if you want the highest trim level, then rather go for the R-Design to have those seats in here. You will be very satisfied with them. Again, I love those raindrops on the hood. Don't they look beautiful? And beneath the hood, engine, this is here the T5. Big petrol engine, but they only use 2-liter 4 cylinders. Here 254 horsepower. And there's also the T6 with 320 horsepower. And on the diesel side, there would be a D4 with 190 horsepower and the D5 with 235 horsepower. And the big engines, they always get connected with all-wheel drive and the automatic gearbox. Alright, let's start our driving part. Can clear up the rain.
And what is very interesting here, I can also show you that while driving and with the camera system. So here the camera system. I can now also see the front if maybe the view would be blocked or if I'm going over a bump. And you can also very well always see the fake drone view from above then if you wanted, if you're for example getting slower. I can show you that here when I'm just fake I would be going in this narrow spot here. I can either see the rear view camera or switch to the 360 view, and then I can very well see if I do fit in here or not. So overall, again, a very convincing camera system. Looks just great to watch it, even you know, if you're driving the car live yourself. That's really the funny thing. So then we're driving this 2-liter 4-cylinder engine with 250 horsepower, petrol engine. And it will basically deliver you enough power, I can already tell you so far. In this price regions, if you think about, you know, 45,000 entry, 20,000 more with the inscription trim below or with the R design, and then the final price of this vehicle here is about 75,000, all of the extras. Yeah, that's expensive, but other upper mid-size premium cars are in the same price region. And then again, you have to think about, does that fit to a 2-cylinder, 4-cylinder, 2-liter 4-cylinder engine? That's it. And I personally don't have any problem with it because, you know, we are on a transition to hybrid and electric cars anyway. So, I mean, if it's not a sport car, it's also not too bad that you don't have this roaring sound. So I'm fine with it. Are you as well? Looking forward to your feedback. Here in this driving part, we will tell you something about city driving, also countryside, Autobahn. We'll have the different aspects of this car covered for you. Overall, you have this typical, very cozy Volvo feeling, so you immediately feel at home. And sometimes in one of those very high luxury Mercedes car, for example, you sometimes get a little bit overwhelmed, so you have to get used to the car more. Here with the Volvo, you don't have the feeling that you would need ages to get used to the car, for example. Also, you also have a good overview on the GPS always. That really helps. And so we'll be going left here right soon. The sound installation overall is very good. Also, when you lower the windows, we have this double sound installation layer here that you can, you know, put the finger inside of the windows. That's very interesting. And again, those superb, comfortable seats, they help you really to relax on a long journey. So this is really one of the most comfortable cars in this segment. We have suspension-wise. Here the air suspension mounted. If you go for that one, it's only in the rear. Do you immediately feel that? Yeah, it's really hard to feel directly. I mean, if we're going over some bumps in the city right now, it's really hard to tell, okay, in the front there's none, but you do have air suspension in the rear. There will be a difference in comfort. For example, also Mercedes offers that in the E-Klasse. You can either go, it's recently covered with the T-Modell. You could indeed either go with the air suspension just in the rear, but also could go for the air suspension for both. That is, there will be a train passing the street very soon, so we'll turn around and go the other way. That's also a good test now for the turning circle, and that is one of the bad things about this car. The turning circle is above 11 meters, and that's really not that good. So it feels not that agile while turning on standstill. You have a problem with that. However, in normal corners, we will also test that very soon. It does feel agile enough. And that will also be a question when we now test the different driving modes. What about the balance of comfort and agility. That's definitely a crucial point. It is basically a long car, 5 meters. Oh, now we are not allowed to turn right. Weird German traffic. So, steering wheel. It's not the most sporty or most direct one, but overall it feels, let's say, it feels natural. And we will turn right here again then, and go just go in a circle. You can also see when I go in a 90-degree turn how I have to turn the steering wheel, and we have experienced cars where we had to, let's say, turn it less. Here now, let's go over some Kopfstein, so-called Kopfsteinpflaster. That's always very interesting. And you hear I don't have to raise my voice that much. That's still okay. And here another proof for turning the steering wheel. Going to the rear. Now again the camera system helps pretty much. Wow, what a clear resolution. Well, what does help you is that the steering, as you may feel, the steering is very light. So you don't need too much power to turn the steering wheel. And that might be important for some of the drivers. The brakes also react very well. Sound from the turning indicators also pretty okay. Some are very annoying, this one isn't. Also the other warning sounds, for example, if you maybe release here your seatbelt, first of all just get a visual warning, so it's not like it immediately starts with pow, 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 like we experienced in some other cars. So they thought about those small details, and overall I'm really satisfied with that. Now we'll go straight. Always a nice view on the Baust Wilkins sound system, by the way, if you look at different speakers right there. So overall, it's, when you're considering some city and traffic here, you have a big car, but you don't feel that you would be, too huge, blocking the road. Of course, the car is very easy to steer, and it gives you this cozy feeling. So even if there are a lot of tricky traffic situations, you always remain calm. Good sound installation, the great calming Scandinavian design, and maybe you turn up your favorite music with the orchestra music scheme, and then you'll be perfectly fine by that. When we go out of the city very soon, and also to the Autobahn, we will also test the different driving modes, because basically we have comfort, that's where we're in at the moment. We have eco, and we have dynamic and individual. Individual, you can just, for example, just you change the throttle input, just like 1 or 2 elements, which one you want to pick. Eco, I can show you that very soon. That also changes the instruments in the front to this green half circle. And the Eco Drive then uses the coasting or sailing function. That means that we don't use engine brake. The speed is not reduced that much. The car is more rolling. And that saves fuel, and it does not make sense when you're going downhill all the time, because you then want to use the engine brake. But I mean, for example, also in the city, when you're really looking forward, when is the red traffic light here, when it's green, let's just try it here with the Eco Drive. I can show you that. So first of all, the throttle input is reduced a little bit, and now meanwhile I can just like let the car roll, leave the foot of the throttle, and you see we relatively remain the speed 38, 37, 36, 35, and if I go to the dynamic, for example, it would be the opposite, 30, 29, 20, oops. So this dynamic mode, in contrast to that, gears are turned up later and turned down earlier, and that is again the different effects. So you have more engine brake than especially when you're maybe a gear higher here now. And I think we'll spare you some of the waiting period now and head on to the Autobahn, where we can really hammer the throttle, that you can also experience some of the performance of the engine. So it's Autobahn time now, and let's also test the performance here in the corners. The engine. It's a little bit wet today, so the car's pushing a little bit to the outside. And let's now go 70 to whatever. Let's 100, 120. 130, 140. That's good. Of course, you don't have this roaring sound, but performance-wise, I think you can't moan about it, and you also don't miss an all-wheel drive in this case. When you're accelerating out a corner from standstill, for example, and it's wet, then you do feel the front wheels are spinning, have not enough traction, then you could use an all-wheel drive. For the other situations, you will mostly also be just fine with that one here. Let's also show you the difference when I'm going into the dynamic mode. So dynamic mode it is now. And now I'm accelerating from 100. Here it turns higher. 140. So the gears are more used, higher RPM figures then, and overall you also get a better acceleration. Let's also try to experience if other characteristics change. I think the steering wheel got a little bit stiffer. That's how it feels. Let's see if we get more feedback in the corner. The steering wheel has not such a smooth transition. When it's, for example, here now it's rather stiff, and then if you go in this direction here it's a little bit soft, then it gets stiffer again. So I think they didn't find the most natural setup for that one. Now at higher speeds, sound insulation is still very good. Let's also test if the dynamic mode is so that was lane change in dynamic mode. And then go back to the comfort mode. Lane change at the same speed. Yeah, oh yeah. So first of all, in comfort mode, the car is wobbling around more. Also the steering wheel is softer. Now again, dynamic mode. Yeah, I think the steering wheel does make a big difference. And again, good performance also from the engine in the higher speed regions. That's no problem. So, I mean, in one of the first tests I said the car is more focusing on comfort and cannot match the high speed performance from the German premium manufacturers. And then some of you said, you didn't maybe try the dynamic mode. And yeah, but I think the dynamic mode mostly changed something with the steering wheel. Still, the suspension is rather set on comfort. Let's see if I can find a difference when riding straight. So all between eco and dynamic. Going over some bumps here now. It's a smooth feeling. Good comfort. Now again to dynamic. Yeah, you do feel it. Maybe you also hear like pop, 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 pop. So you do have a stiffer suspension in a dynamic mode. The question is, do you want that? And from an upper mid-size car, I would rather expect this comfortable ride, and therefore also don't think that it's any bad that we don't have the sportiest characteristics here. I think it's rather good, because that's what you should expect from such a car here. But if you want to change the suspension here, at least you can have the different driving modes if you went for that adaptive one. So it is possible to drive it sportier with the dynamic mode. Yes, that's true. So that's also one of the findings here today again. Promised you I'll test it again. Let's do another lane change. Yeah, I think it also has something to do with the steering wheel, that you feel like you would have to be a little bit more careful at higher speeds. And I think that's really due to the steering wheel, because it doesn't feel that natural. So here it's again a little soft, then it gets stiff, but then the effect on the road is very huge, so you have to get used to it. So overall, from the suspension, really keen on that one, very comfortable, and also good that you can stiffen it up with the dynamic mode. If you would like to, that gives you a little bit more security, for example, when you're riding at higher speeds. But I think the steering setup, the same as I've mentioned in the Alfa Giulia, I think they didn't really match it to high speed situations. This is something, however, primarily for German customers, and just if they go that fast, not everyone does. So in some markets it might not even be that important. So we're going off this main motorway here now. Here again some cornering agility, at the moment in comfort mode. It is still fun to drive the car also fast, no question. But here you feel it's pushing a little bit over the front wheels. Get the next corner, I'll try the dynamic mode again. Get more feedback from the car then. So the dynamic mode is primarily a lot of fun, for example, on very dry roads and on very flattened out roads, that's for sure. Then to the assistance systems. First of all, the adaptive cruise control. I'll set it now to 80, for example. And the Volvo systems are really working very flawlessly. You can also see everything in the head-up display. The head-up display gives a very clear view of the speed, and also they have the cruise control mounted. And also when I change the distance, I can not only see it in the front in the instruments, but also in the head-up display that I'm changing the preset distance for the car in front of me. There is also this pilot assist available. I've activated here right now, also at the steering wheel, and this pilot assist, when it shows the green steering, can also drive the car autonomously. So far it's not thought that I would leave the hands off the steering wheel. I'm just doing it for display purposes now. Please don't do this at home, kids. Now it says apply steering. I should take over again. Now the car cancelled it, because this system is so far really designed to help you. So you just keep the hands on the steering wheel. You can relax a little bit more when driving. You maybe don't feel so much tension. And then you don't get so tired that fast. That could be, one reason for that. And also when you're in traffic jams, that you don't have to concentrate that much. The car does it for you and solves the traffic jam. Overall, Volvo of course wants to head there someday, that the cars are driving fully autonomously. And you remember maybe the goal from Volvo, that's I think 2020 or 2025, something of that it was. They want that no person gets killed in a new Volvo anymore, and one of those reasons also should be that more autonomous systems are working, that you have more support by the car to prevent accidents. I mean, overall the pilot assist, it's an extra feature you have to pay for, of course. Again, for traffic it makes most sense. That's, I think, the main thing. With the new S90 or V90, also the speed in which it works has been increased to, I think it was 130 kilometers an hour. With the X90 it was just working at very low speeds, here also with higher speeds now. I'm not sure, I mean, it is some kind of those semi-autonomous features you do not have to have, but they are also the technology that plaves the way for the full autonomous drive, and therefore we or the manufacturers need those systems to have a transition between the different drives. And let's be honest, we all like to drive cars, especially the Autogefühl community here, but there are always certain situations where you say, well, okay, that's not fun. Maybe I'll better read my emails now. And that could be also the thing then when you want to use those systems here. So at the moment, for example, I'm doing nothing, basically. What's it telling now? No, also traffic sign recognition says from 80 to 60, speed was reduced, and also distance to the car in front of me, speed was reduced. I did nothing, basically now, and the car reduced the speed to 0, and also kept the car in lane as the pilot assist was activated as well. You always see that with the steering wheel, when the steering wheel is marked green. So now I'll take over myself again. Oh, the acceleration is really good. What you can do, other than taking the dynamic mode, is also putting the shifting lever to left. Then you are in this manual mode, and there are no shifting pedals at the steering wheel here, but you can just do that you can really hear it. You can use the central shifting stick to push it forward or backward. Then you can also shift on your own. That might make sense also when you're going downhill and want to use the engine brake as much as possible. Or maybe you're in an overtaking process and want to give it some more power. That might make sense then for you. Overall, you usually leave this automatic in a normal mode, and it just does its job. So what can you say as a conclusion for the S90 or V90? First of all, the riding comfort is basically the same, so there's not much difference. This car I'm driving also could be the sedan, and I wouldn't even realize it. It's just that I know it's the estate. The overview to the side is good, by the way, very light also with the panoramic roof. And this is a big advantage if you consider the S90 here with the steep window at the rear. You can very well see who's behind you. So that's another reason to go for the estate. And good look through the frameless mirror there as well. So would I go for the S90 or for the V90? Yeah, I like a sedan roofline, but all facts speak for the V90. I mean, visibility, practicability, price, okay, it's a little bit more expensive, but it's not like the major difference. So I think I would rather go with the V90, and I will also like it more from the rear visual part. And what about the other competitors while driving? The E-Classe is more silent. That's the class leader in there. Also with the fully airmatic, so air suspension on all of the four wheels. It's also more comfortable. The Audi and the BMW are also focusing more on the agility part. But we've also tested the E-Classe as the E43. That was a great compromise between comfort and sportiness. Yeah, so in this premium segment, in the upper mid-size segment, you have really a lot of different choices. I mean, you even have to consider the Skoda Superb now. I mean, it's half the price of the other vehicles, but it basically has a good premium feeling and even more space in the rear. So also consider that if for a good price-performance ratio. What do you think about the sound here? I think it's not too bad. Yeah, it's no V6 sound, but for a 2-liter engine, I think also not too bad. I think it doesn't sound too turbo-ish. So some turbos make like this from the turbo. You don't hear that much here, so I'm pretty satisfied by that. Even on wet roads here, good performance of the car. Still, I'm having a very comfortable ride. And the question is really, which one will I go for? The Volvo, the Audi A6, the Mercedes E-Klasse, or maybe also the BMW 5 Series. Well, the 5 Series has become quite old now. We will test the all-new 5 Series of BMW in December, so join us for that as well, then we can tell you something about that. The Audi has more stability, especially on high speeds, is for me probably the sportiest car at the moment in the segment. The Mercedes the most comfortable. This one here, the Volvo, I think gives you the coziest feeling, because we also have this design focus here. It has the most spectacular infotainment system, and driving-wise also goes more in this comfort region. And it's really often just a matter of personal preference and maybe which concise deal you get at the dealer for one of those brands. So really hard decisions if you're in this segment here. So any more questions, maybe then put it in the comments, or any remarks to our driving parts. Other than that, we have covered a lot of different aspects of this vehicle for today again. Hope you enjoyed it here with me. And let's hop on further to our final conclusion.
Yes, the Swedes are still able to build very good estates. It's not the very classic ones with the square dimensions in the rear. Yeah, you maybe don't fit that much stuff as in the very old models, but still very versatile to use here in the rear. And definitely in all of the reasonable aspects better than the S90. Just if you're really a sedan lover, then it's still way to go with the S90. I think even though I prefer sedans in general from the visual perspective, I would still go for the V90 to have the higher flexibility. And as I said earlier, either in a momentum trim level when it's available in your market for a best price performance, or if it has to be the highest trim level you want to go for, then probably the R design we have already shown you to have a better seating setup. Here the inscription, tell me which one you liked best there. I think overall the design, exterior and the interior, they did a great job there, the designers. And also from the driving part, really a very competitive model. It's really a tough question which of the premium brands you should pick in this segment here. All have their different strengths. And now to our final verdict of those 4 large premium estates. First of all, we could not deliver all 4 cars with directly comparable engines. Audi and Volvo with a 4-cylinder, Mercedes with a sporty 6-cylinder, and BMW with a 6-cylinder diesel. But that indeed was a very interesting choice to compare, because you can also think about the proper engine choice. The 3 German cars are all available as high horsepower sporty versions. The Volvo isn't. Overall, they all share similar list prices if you look at the price lists. The most efficient one is the BMW diesel, which is the best engine in this test if you think about price, performance and economy. Exterior-wise, Audi shows the most angularity, while BMW has the most conservative design. Volvo and Mercedes play a little bit more with the sensual elements. The interior build quality is best with Audi and BMW. The room that is being offered does not differ that much. As for the infotainment concept, Audi and Volvo set all sails on touchscreens, whereas BMW and Mercedes also offer classic controllers and are also heading towards a better voice input. We felt the Audi had the best seating comfort. Also, the Volvo seats have a great ergonomic form. And the Mercedes shows the most sensual and emotional interior design. Mercedes has also the most and best alternatives to animal skin on the seats. As for the suspension, the Mercedes air suspension is the softest one in a base E-Class, so to say, or a luxury edition E-Class. The E43 is of course definitely stiffer. Noise insulation is also best in the E-Class. The BMW offers a good compromise between sportiness and comfort, gives you the most agile driving feeling, maybe also the most fun. The Audi is also agile already in the base version, also a lot of fun to drive. The Volvo does not want to be that sporty and focuses on calm driving experience. The question now is which of those aspects is the most important to you. All four are very good cars, they are all very expensive and all have their slightly different focuses. You get the Audi A6 if you want a clean interior experience and also already a sporty ride. The BMW 5 Series if you want, let's say, the most fun sporty ride. The Mercedes E-Klasse, but not as E43 if you want the softest riding comfort, and the Volvo V90 if you want to stand out from the common Germans. So what do you think? Which one of those four cars would be your favorite? Please vote and comment also in our comments section. And I hope you really enjoyed this in-depth look.